All right, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. My voice is almost back. Okay, hopefully we're doing all right. But yeah, I'm gonna start the countdown and we'll begin the stream in like 3 minutes here. So see you guys very soon. Imminent, in the words of a great man. All right, 3 minutes. So true. I'm telling you, DOYLE nationalism, literally the future of the Republican Party. You cannot stop it. Yo, look, I'm the baby now.
This monument will never be desecrated. These heroes will never be defaced. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
John, thoughts on VinceDao nationalism?
Oh, I mean, I've been campaigning that for the better part of 3 years now. Before I even knew Vince, it actually appeared to me in a dream, and I just have sort of been trying to like subtly, when they say John Doyle dog whistles, he does, but not the way they think. It's always about VinceDao nationalism. They sound like a white nationalist. No, I'm a VinceDao man.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo as long as we are led by politicians who will not put America first. Then we can be assured that other nations will not treat America with respect, the respect that we deserve. The American people will come first once again.
Millions of Americans sincerely love Donald Trump. They love Donald Trump because no one else loves them. The country they built, the country their ancestors fought for over hundreds of years, has left them to die in their unfashionable little towns, mocked and despised by the sneering half-wits with finance degrees but no actual skills who seem to run everything all of a sudden.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back. What's up, guys? So you guys know those of you who were there on the last stream know that my voice was totally shot. Okay. Some were suspecting, although it is simply not the case, that I was sick with COVID-19. Those allegations are frankly false, but I think my voice is almost back now. I mean, I think you can still hear a little bit of it, but we're feeling great. All right, we're doing pretty well. So hopefully this stream, I make it through this stream without sounding like a freaking witch or whatever. But what's up, guys? We're back here with live streaming. Again, hopefully my voice can make it through. But let me just say to the live chat, I do not appreciate the betrayal, okay? These people out here basically rooting for a second 714 because they think, well, which by the way did not happen. Let me just affirm that. That is the official stance on this channel. It never, literally, I'm a 714 denier. It never happened. I don't appreciate people rooting for that to happen again, though. That's just not very nice, okay? Not very nice. But anyways, guys, like I said on the stream today, we're going to react to last week. Was it like last week? I don't know. It was a while ago. I was traveling, so I didn't get a chance to react to it. I do want to react to it, though, because the whole Caitlyn Jenner debate is something that we've talked about a lot on this channel. And obviously, as you know, actually, let me just say that, too, okay? I probably should have been in this debate, to be completely honest. Not because I just want to, but because remember who did the Ryan Fournier live? Remember that? Remember that was me? Okay, Savannah. Okay, so you should have been putting me. That's just bad booking. But we kid. We do a little trolling. But yeah, slightly offensive debate. Let me actually pull it up right here. And basically, this was post CPAC Texas. Obviously, Caitlyn quote unquote Jenner was there, and you know there was some back and forth. I have actually not seen this debate. So I'm watching this for the first time. I usually don't do that, but I've never seen this before. So we're gonna react to it. All right, I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know. We need content to react to. Okay, that's the best way to do the live streams, in my opinion, because that way I don't have to actually come up with stuff. I can just be a reactionary. Anyways, I don't want to make this stream too long, so let's just get started. Here.
Feeling like he did. He grabbed my glasses out the door, gonna see.
Actually, let me know if you guys can hear the audio okay, because I don't have AirPods in, so it might be a little bit feedbacky. Let me know about that.
Before I leave, I brush my teeth with a bottle of Jack, because when I leave for the night, I ain't coming back. I'm talking pedicures on my toes.
Can I just say, what the heck is this? Okay, what is he doing? All right, like, dude, you can't. He's not even a good singer. All right, like, what is this? This is just like literally, it's just because, oh, look, that's Caitlyn Jenner. Let's have him sing. No, why? Why is this necessary? Why is this a thing that human beings had to see? I don't know how old this is. I don't know what this is from, but what is this? I mean, this is just that. I'm not a fan. This should just not be a thing. Why is he doing this?
Boys, roll up my phone. Top dropping, way my favorite scene. He's putting on the party. Gonna have a little bit tipsy.
So at the dawn of CPAC, we found out there's some contention in the Republican Party. In fact, people don't know what the future of conservatism is. Is conservatism trans? Is it gay? Is it conservative purism? I don't know. But I brought on some amazing guests to help me discuss this conflict, specifically over Caitlyn Jenner, the trans identity, and the future of our country here on the right. My guests today are AMIR ODOM. He's a content creator who focuses on self-development, having a candid conversation on tough topics. AMIR, welcome to Slightly Offensive for the first time.
Thank you.
Awesome. I also have a guest named Sarah Higdon, who's an Army vet,
Okay, so here's the person that the individual that we were a little bit curious about in the live chat. So I think I've seen this person around. I don't know them. I've never seen their stuff, but
libertarian YouTuber. You can find their
libertarian YouTuber. All right, interesting. Keep that in mind as we go through this. All right, but anyways, we got AMIR. I'm actually cool with AMIR. I like AMIR. But let's see the rest of the panel.
In the description below. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We also have a
No comment. No comment. We're on YouTube. No comment.
Resident guest and longtime friend, Lauren Chen, who's a political and a social commentator, as well as a YouTuber. I don't know if she defines herself as that anymore. Lauren, welcome back to Slightly Offensive.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
And of course, our resident Black person expert and our number one challenger here at all of these conversations, John Doyle.
So true.
Content creator. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. So guys, I want to jump straight in this. We always give the guests a chance as we start out to just give an introduction about what it is that you do and what is your political leaning. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with AMIR. Can you just in 30 seconds or less, just let us know where do you stand politically?
For sure. So politically, I stand a little more to the right, say like center, definitely more on the right side. got a rise online just talking about my disgust for BLM and the modern LGBTQ. And
it's kind of cringe though, dude. Imagine, I mean, I like Amir, okay? I'm friendly with him. But imagine not being far right. Imagine looking at the country right now and not thinking like, you know, peacefully, radical political solutions are needed to actually solve the problems in our country. You know what I'm saying? My guy, you got to become radicalized, okay? In a good way, in a peaceful way, and in a way that's not going to, you know, get hit piece by the ADL. But seriously, just the thought, okay? Center right, I don't think it's really a position that we need right now, or really one that I think is really all that justified when you look to the state of the country. But anyways, I do like Amir though, so he's a cool guy.
yeah, that's about where I stand.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'm a former conservative who moved more libertarian. Now I consider myself more of a minarchist. Definitely very small government.
Of course you do.
You know, keep the government out of our business.
Of course
type
you
person.
do.
Awesome. And Lauren?
So I am right wing. I'm for small government. I'm moving increasingly toward minarchism because I just cannot stand government power in almost any way, shape, or form nowadays. But with that being said, I am socially, I would say I try to adhere to Christian values. I'm not going to call myself conservative because, as a lot of us know, that term has essentially lost all meaning.
Awesome. And John?
I didn't know Lauren Chen was like a libertarian. I didn't get that vibe from her. I'm like, I don't know these people that well, but like, come on, Lauren. I thought you were a based authoritarian. That's what you act like on Twitter, dude. Come on, what's the libertarian talk? No, there's no time in this country for libertarianism. It's just not the case. It's just not the case. All right. But anyways, we know.
Would
John,
call
we love
myself a
John.
conservative, a beautiful loser. I guess just a more traditional understanding of what that means philosophically, as opposed to the more modern strain, which would be dubbed properly neoconservatism.
Awesome. On that note, welcome back to Slightly Offensive, the best worst show on Blaze TV, where you always have 8K graphics, confetti of color.
Someone asked, what is a minarchist? Minarchy is basically like a political philosophy sort of that basically surmises that like the only duty of the government, it's kind of like a strain of classical liberalism. Like literally the only duty of the government is to protect individuals against the NAP, the non-aggression principle. So basically a minarchist would believe that aside from, you know, the protection of like life, liberty, and property, the government has no other duty. We know why that's wrong, right? We know why that's actually not really a sound way to structure a society. It may be ideal in theory, but in practice, obviously, it just will always lead to a society where a bunch of godless, atheist degenerates end up taking over things and running things. Because as it turns out, when you do not wield power to keep yourself in power, well, you know, the other side will. So that's basically what it is. So,
Or you can give a little bit to our guests there. Keep it very nice and colorful. There you go. Everyone gets a little confetti here. There you go. So on Sarah, we got Amir, yeah, and Lauren. My name's Elijah Schaefer. I'm your top 17 host. And since at Blaze, we have a new show, the Jason Whitlock Show. They've bumped me to number 18, but that's okay. We have a lot more in store for you guys. A lot of controversial topics. I'm going to request that everybody refrains from cursing so that Savannah doesn't have a headache censoring this, and also that we respect YouTube guidelines so that we don't get deleted. But before we jump into today's topic, I got to ask you a question. Have you been suffering with feeling nauseous on your commute? All those trains, subways, bumper-to-bumper traffic making you sick to your stomach. Maybe even you just find yourself feeling dizzy all around. I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like. Even right now, I'm under the weather. And I'm like, is there some way to help myself without having to take all these horrible... That's RELIEFBAND.com. Use promo code offensive right now to get...
Relief Band. Okay, you guys got it. Use the promo code offensive. Okay.
20% off plus free shipping and no questions asked. 30-day money-back guarantee. That's reliefband.com. Promo code offensive for 20% off plus free shipping, no questions asked, 30 days money back. So get it while you can. All right, so let's jump into this. Obviously, we have a wide range of select panelists. You guys are all completely awesome. Just so you know the way this works, I will call on you guys in the beginning, but I have no problem with you guys interrupting each other as long as you're kind, and I have no problem with you butting in. You don't need to raise your hands. That's how it all works. We're going to start with Sarah. So Sarah, we bumped into each other on Twitter, and I want to start this first question. Caitlyn Jenner is obviously transgender, previously known as Bruce Jenner. How does Caitlyn Jenner running for office in California and presumably, if she won or he won, whatever you'd prefer, how does that help
Not gonna
America?
win.
Well, Caitlyn Jenner is she's for deregulation. She's for lower taxes.
Oh, there
She
you
doesn't
go.
agree with the current, trans craze,
Oh,
the
gosh.
current, LGBT activism. So I really think when you look in those lenses, in California, that's probably the only state that somebody like Caitlyn Jenner could win in the Republican Party.
Oh my God.
But she has those more small government leanings. So get somebody like that in California where she can actually win there. And I think that her being trans could.
Are we surprised, folks? Are we really surprised? What does the libertarian say immediately? Well, Caitlyn Jenner is for deregulation and low taxes, so it's a net good. And also, Caitlyn Jenner advances the LGBT agenda, which to this person again is a further net good. Expected, yes. Okay, but let's keep listening
actually
here.
pull more people over to her side from the Libertarian Party or even the left that's just sick of Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, Lauren, I'm interested to hear your perspective. Obviously, I know that you're I would say more socially conservative. So with someone like Caitlyn being transgender, embracing the LGBTQ community, saying that, I'm looking out above all else for this community, not necessarily the party or even the values. I mean, does this help or does this hurt the overall country if Caitlyn were to win?
Well, I think there's a couple of questions we need to ask. Is Caitlyn better than someone like Gavin Newsom? Absolutely. A lot of people are better than Gavin Newsom. But what I think is important to remember is if we're talking about this from a Republican standpoint, Caitlyn Jenner has come out and said that when it comes to social issues, she does lean more conservative. She's for lower taxes, protecting the border. That's amazing. But I think we all should remember that when President Trump was in office, she came out against things like trying to define gender based on genitalia or assigned at birth, however you want to call it. When it comes to the issue of trans athletes, Caitlyn Jenner has also said that biological males should not be competing against females, except for when it comes to younger children, and therefore kind of leading into the fact that, Caitlyn Jenner does believe that children should be able to transition. So these are not socially conservative policies by any means. I think Sarah's probably right that this would probably help with a lot of libertarians who are, they're not conservatives. They're just small government, especially in terms of taxes. But there's a difference between conservatism and libertarianism, and I think someone like Caitlyn Jenner running is a great example of that.
Amir?
Let me tell you what the big problem really is, I would say, with Caitlyn Jenner is not like, oh, well, but his political stances, like, he's for, transitioning for children. Like, yeah, okay, obviously that's bad, but anyone want to be brave enough to say that the image of, and I've gone over this many times, how it's going to happen, how it's inevitable that, I mean, he already kind of is to an extent, but especially if hypothetically it's not going to happen. Luckily, Larry Elder's basically going to ensure that just doesn't happen in the based on his presence in the recall. But hypothetically, if Caitlyn Jenner were to become elected as a Republican and as the governor of California, he would become someone who is like this national face of the Republican Party. That's inevitable. It would make so much news, not just because a Republican won in California, but because a famous Kardashian won in California. And that is, I think, the last thing we need as a party. I talk about, normalizing the LGBT social agenda or whatever, nothing does that more specifically in general than for the supposedly conservative party. What does it do to the image of the supposedly conservative party in the United States that a transgender has become the national face of our party? Is that the direction you want our party to go in? Is that even something that will help the party win elections? The answer is no to both. And I think that really is the reason why we should be opposed to this Caitlyn Jenner stuff. And I've gone over the electability too. I've gone over why it's just not a good idea. But this is the real reason. I think that's a valid reason. It's reason enough to say no. And obviously, you have the other stances, this and that, but that to me is the big reason why you don't think it should happen. So
Caitlyn Jenner is a wild topic to me. I don't know. I feel like I don't really know where she stands. It's crazy that, she's flip-flopped on so many different topics. And I mean, to be quite frank, it makes me wonder if Caitlyn's going to flip-flop on her voters how Bruce flip-flopped on Caitlyn.
Right.
Like,
And that's interesting too.
Actually, let me rewind because I wasn't really paying attention. It's called we do a little zoning
by
out.
any
Hold
means.
on.
I think Sarah's probably right that this would probably.
Right. And that's interesting too, because I've noticed that like we've all sort of adopted in this conversation.
About here.
There's a difference between conservatism and libertarianism, and I think someone like Caitlyn Jenner running is a great example of that.
Amir?
Caitlyn Jenner is a wild topic to me. I don't know. I feel like I don't really know where she stands. It's crazy that, you know, she's flip-flopped on so many different topics. And I mean, to be quite frank, it makes me wonder if Caitlyn's going to flip-flop on her voters, how Bruce flip-flopped on Caitlyn.
Right.
Like,
and that's interesting too, because I've noticed that like we've all sort of adopted in this conversation already the preferred pronouns, referring to Caitlyn as a she. John, I'm interested to hear your views on this.
My views are essentially that I think that using low taxes and small government as a barometer for which candidates we want to prop up in the Republican Party is a flawed thought. Especially in a state like California. And the thinking is sort of, oh, well, maybe if Caitlyn rejects the sort of trans craze and LGBT thing that's happening now, that would be good for us on social issues. And it's like, she was the trans craze. Right. She did the cover in 2015, and that was what acted as sort of the catalyst for this whole discussion. There are very prominent people in right-wing media who made careers out of just saying there are only two genders, men cannot be women. Like there are people who literally made careers by doing that. And now collectively we're deciding, wait a minute, we could actually own the libs if we elected a transgender in California, which is never going to happen because California, which is, by the way, the state that produced Richard Nixon, the state that produced Ronald Reagan, that state is never going to go red again because of the demographic change. And those demographics that vote overwhelmingly for Democrats also happen to be the demographics that are the most least likely to support something like a transgender person running for public office. So I think that is basically an example of conservatives being children and these like petulant toddlers who think that like we're going to just take all of our money and throw it into something that's going to achieve us nothing tangible simply to point out the hypocrisy of the left. Oh, well, now they're actually the real transphobes because they don't like Caitlyn Jenner. And it's like literally the most surface level political analysis that you could provide, because it's like it requires no insight or intellectualism. It literally just requires that you observe what they are saying and notice the difference between that and what they are actually doing. It doesn't require any other strategy or planning. It's literally just pouring money into something that is not going to work simply because you think it's going to help score points against your aunt on Facebook.com.
Yeah, Sarah, what do you think about that?
It's true. It's true. Actually, that basically sounds like exactly what I've said throughout this Jenner stuff. Hold on, let me actually close the door because the door is kind of open here and it's awkward. But we will continue playing the debate.
Yeah, I actually agree. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner would not be my first choice.
Who would be, by the way,
of California? Or the only person I even really know that's running for governor of California is Richard Grinnell.
Larry Elder now too, by the way.
Rich, I don't think Grinnell's running.
Do you know Larry?
Yeah, I don't really know.
Hold on, what? Grinnell's not running. That's
Sarah. Are you familiar with Larry Elder?
Oh, no, I just saw that he announced yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't really follow too much about the California race. The only time I really see much is when it is talking about somebody like Caitlyn Jenner that's stirring up news.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, and this is what I want to kind of bring this to. Okay, so there's a big discussion on what it means to be right wing, and you know, a lot of people right now are mad because we've conceded so much ground to the left that there is a growing swath, I would say, of hardline individuals who were once centrist or libertarian that see that kind of live and let live mentality has led to us conceding ground, because as we let them live, they use their rights to take away ours. And so when we come to a position like nominating a transgender, and I would say even giving the most press to a transgender, when it comes to what defines us as a party and what defines the right wing, if we don't draw the line at a transgender candidate, where do we draw the line? And we'll go to Amir, start there.
That's a very good question, because been talking to a lot of friends recently, and it's like, what are conservatives conserving? You know, what is the state of the conservative? What is the state of the Republican Party?
Hold on, okay? I can't listen and mod at the same time because I'm idiotic and can't multitask. So, who was the other person who needed? Oh, Frankie Nutcracker. Yeah, he can mod. Where? I don't even see him in chat. Oh, here he is. He do be sending a lot of super chats, so we'll give him mod. It's called We Do a Little Nepotism. So true. All right. Anyways,
we literally have a trans as the front lead as far as getting the most press.
It's true.
It's concerning to me, and I'm not sure where where the party is going, and I'm starting to see now what people mean by why we necessarily don't need this big tent, because the tent just keeps expanding and expanding, expanding. And at what point does it stop? So we see how far it's come now.
Yeah, Lauren?
Well, this whole conversation kind of reminds me of when Donald Trump was running the Republican primaries. A lot of people were bringing up his divorces, his very non-traditional personal life. You had the Stormy Daniels fiasco. I mean, even that, people knew about that before he was actually president. And you know, I was always of the opinion that if he's the best candidate, I am less concerned about his personal life. And frankly, if Caitlyn Jenner, I'm probably going to get flack on this, if she was actually coming out hard as someone like with DeSantis's policies, this would be a totally different conversation in my opinion. But let's not forget, Caitlyn Jenner being trans aside, Caitlyn Jenner is just not socially conservative, even with the positions that she comes out. She is for.
I think here's a difference between, you know, someone like Trump, who obviously historically has not had the most conservative social life, and someone like Caitlyn Jenner, is that with Trump, you're not really seeing it. Like, obviously, like, yeah, people do have their personal lives. To be honest, most politicians have very checkered personal lives. But the difference is someone like Trump doesn't really outwardly display that, right? It's like, yeah, he's been divorced. He's had a lot of women, but you don't really go around. He doesn't really go around like showing that to the world. He has put a lot of distance between that public image and the public image of Donald Trump, the politician, because he can. Someone like Caitlyn Jenner, who outwardly obviously displays that lifestyle, and you can't avoid it. It's right there, right? It's like, you know, so someone like that, I would argue, outwardly displays that a lot more, puts a lot more of that frontward image than someone like Trump, who can kind of just distance himself from it. And that's not a defense of, you know, Trump's personal life, right? We know the story there, but I think there's kind of a jump between that and someone who like outwardly projects it in the way they do, right? Trump kind of tried to put some distance between. He tried to bury his personal life a little bit. Jenner is like outwardly showing that and then being proud of the fact that he's outwardly showing that. See the difference? There is a difference, I would argue.
For all the,
and people might say that's a cope, but I don't think it is. I think there is actually a discernible difference between the two. And, you know, on the policy front, obviously, we know the story. So
LGBT anti-discrimination policy, she has said that repeatedly. So it's not even like this is a trans person who is saying like, no, we should be able to protect women's sports and all of these things. We should have Catholic adoption agencies, the right to refuse to adopt to same-sex couples. This isn't even someone that's doing that. This is someone who is economically perhaps right-wing, but socially progressive. Caitlyn Jenner, from everything I've seen, leans way more libertarian. So it's kind of like this topic doesn't even apply to Caitlyn Jenner. She's not really claiming to be conservative.
John?
I would make the argument that there's sort of a conservative to libertarian to conservative pipeline that I think most people progress through.
That's so true. That's literally the case. Okay. I'm gonna guess you guys all went down that too. I did the exact same. I was like, I started off as like this, like Tucker Carlson was kind of my first red pillar. Like that's actually where I first aligned when I came into politics, and then, you know, we went down the libertarian route for a little while, and then we came back. Okay, we came back home, basically about like last year. People always ask me this. They're like, you know, when exactly did you kind of come back home? And honestly, I guess it probably took time to really show in my content. But honestly, as early as like May, June 2020, I basically got it. So we love to see it. We love to see conservatives come back home where they belong. So true.
Where we are conservative in the sense that like, oh, I like America and I kind of don't like government. Epic. And then you're like, wait a minute, the founding fathers, they wanted us to be libertarians. But then there are events, or even in my case, one single meme that gets you to like snap out of that. And for me, it was realizing that, I'm not even kidding, it was one meme I saw, realizing that idealism suggests that we can yield the power vacuum, but that's not actually how human beings work, because we're flawed. Everybody knows this. The founding fathers knew this, etc. And so to achieve something like a truly libertarian society, you're basically in a sort of prisoner's dilemma where you're shaking hands and saying like, I'm not going to wield power. You're not going to wield power. We will live and let live, and we will all coexist peacefully. Except that the side that we're up against doesn't actually want to do that. It is the quintessential example, I guess, would be white, white silence is violence versus don't tread on me, right? They're going to come find you when you're having dinner, and they're going to demand that you stand up and say Black Lives Matter. And if you don't, you are immoral, and actually you are committing violence against them. You're complicit in that. Versus the right just saying, hey, do what you want, but just don't tread on me. And they're not going to do anything about it when they're actually like being tread on, which the flag suggests. The Gadsden flag suggests that upon being treaded on, you're going to at some point bite back. But the libertarians largely haven't done that. I mean, you even watch the footage from their conventions. Someone says that they think driver's licenses should be a thing, and there's just boo, boo, government bad. And it's like, government isn't inherently bad. Power could potentially be bad, whether that's corporate power, state power, it doesn't matter. And so libertarians are so rotted in the brain from pornography and drugs that they think that like, so true. As long as it's Bank of America screwing me over.
Look at the slightly upset face right here. You can kind of see it. It's like, haha, funny, but you know, not the most happy with what John is saying. What John is saying is true, though. Should listen up, Lobert.
It's okay. Maybe you'll learn something. At least it's not the state.
Okay, so that's what I want to bring into this, is that even as we're talking about this, I mean, what does it show us about our future in the right wing in general, whether you're libertarian?
You know, I think I don't know if people even care, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think my the point where I really became more of a populist initially from like my stupid Lobert phase was really I just kind of sat down one day, and I think I got this from watching actually like a lot of Trump, because I noticed that, well, I was this big Trump supporter, but actually my ideology doesn't really entirely align with him. And then I had this sort of epiphany where I was like, well, if you want, because I just understood, oh, we live in a democratic system, and it's very clear that my ideas are very unpopular. And I was like, why is big government so popular? And then I went on this little thought process, and I was like, well, you know, maybe in order to actually functionally have small government, you first must have a society with strong families and like a strong working and middle class, because ultimately only that type of like healthy American society is one that could somewhat be capable of self-governance. And then the second I realized that, I was just like, it all kind of fell into place for me. And then, you know, over time we have really drifted away. So, short personal story. I don't think anyone cares, but that was it was like a very simple thought process for me. But then I just kind of thought my ideas to their logical conclusion, when it was like, oh, okay, you know what, that makes sense. So,
libertarian or conservative, that if you can go to my screen for a second, Savannah, when you have somebody prominent like Tommy Lahren saying the attacks on Caitlyn Jenner are despicable, I'll go to bat for her every single time, and if you want to take my conservative card for it, take it and shove it. Your mob is no better than the left, and in fact, it's uglier.
We did a stream on this tweet, actually. You guys remember this? Attacks on Caitlyn Jenner are despicable. I'll go to bat for her every single.
Is the fact that in the midst of all of the trials and the struggles that not only California is facing, but the country is facing, that the argument and what people are concerned about is whether or not people are calling Caitlyn Bruce. I mean, what does this tell us about our current state and why we continue to lose? And I'll go to Sarah for that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I get it. The thought to, like you said, call Caitlyn Bruce. I don't have those types of, I think it's more, you being more respectful to somebody is actually how you get more people on your side. And so when you're actually talking about somebody like Caitlyn Jenner and you're doing it in that way, you're not actually talking about her specifically. You're talking about somebody like me or a lot of other people that are that were part of the walk away movement. I mean, you got to remember
why are we spamming 714s in chat? Okay. This is a personal insult to me. How dare you? Literally, how dare you? 714 was an inside job. That is true. That part is true. Okay, it was an inside job. That's all I'll say about it. But you know,
the walk away movement took down Trump from 14% of the LGBT vote to 27% of the LGBT vote.
Wow, so much. You know that. Listen, LGBTs were like 3%. I think it's 3.8% of the U.S. population. Okay, so he doubled that. Let's do the math, actually. Let's see how many votes that is. So we have what, 300? I think probably now it's about 340 million, right, from the last census. So let's just say 340 million people in America. And LGBT is supposed to be like 3.8%, I think, in total. Okay, so that's 12 million. And then let's take 28% of that, which is like 3 million votes. Is that right? Very substantial right there. Really made a difference in the election, didn't it, folks?
Vote. I mean, the Libertarian Party would love to have those numbers. You know, that's 18 million people that are in the LGBT community that they could pull over to their side and start making more headway, you know, as we are. But if conservatives are really looking to push that number away, you know, push a lot of those people away, because right-wing LGBT people don't necessarily want to drop the T, they want to drop the transgender activist that are in the community. Right-wing LGBT, and the T standing for transsexual, is much different than transgender and the TQ plus.
Explain.
So why do we let me get this straight. Why exactly should the GOP be crafting its social policy around this like rather insignificant, numerically speaking, group of people? You know, the premise is not, well, if, you know, we'll vote for it because we believe in taxes or whatever. Their premise is, this guy's premise is, we should structure, the Republican Party has an obligation to structure its entire social policy around me. No, it doesn't. Okay. Now, to be fair, it basically does, but you really have no obligation to it. Like we've been over, you know, LGBT is not a significant portion of the Republican electorate. Inherently, let me say this: the Republican Party, in the just conservatives in general in America, are never going to win a large share of the LGBT vote, specifically because, you know, it's going to be very hard to win over people who fundamentally are mentally progressive, right? They're mentally progressive. What they're doing is culturally progressive. You know, and inherently, I think you take some degree of or at least some type of liberal mindset's going to come along with that type of lifestyle. And so fundamentally, with that like considered in mind, you're really not going to see culturally and personally progressive people come over to the Conservative Party. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. If anything, you would want to say, well, here are like these unregistered Christian voters or these unregistered people who are more socially conservative, right? Or they're voting more Democrat, but they're kind of socially trad in a lot of ways. Those are the people that should be the target of the Republican Party, not people who like everything they stand for culturally and personally is anti-conservative. But somehow the conservatives think, oh, we're just going to win over these voters. It's not very the most practical thing, is it? You have a pretty big cultural divide to bridge that is just not going to happen. So don't structure the vote around the LGBT. And also, let's consider the fact, I'm pretty sure most of that 3.8% congregates in like San Francisco, which is pretty self-explanatory, okay? Because I don't know this, okay? But I assume that it's true that the geographic distribution of LGBT isn't even, you know, even across the country. You probably have a lot more in places like New York and California. So there's no point to this. There literally is no point to this. And in the process, you're going to alienate, you're going to turn off a lot of people that may come over to your side, right? You think Hispanic voters, like we always talk about, are necessarily, you know, they want to vote for the gay party? I don't think that's the case necessarily. So
transsexuals, we don't believe in like the non-binary and the 1,000 genders that you have. You know, we're not queer activists. We typically have more traditional values. And so when you're talking about even on the right wing side of
traditional values, bro, what is that behind him? It looks like a freaking it's like a weird, is that like one of those things where like you manifest to the universe? That's what it looks like. That's not very traditional, okay? No weird hippie religions. I don't know what that is, but that looks like something I've seen in a weird hippie religion before.
Of things. We typically agree with most of the things that's going on. I never thought that Donald Trump was a homophobe or a transphobe or anything like that. So we don't believe in a lot of the leftist rhetoric that's being put out there. But we do typically want to go along with our lives and and as we see fit. And so when you attack somebody like Caitlyn Jenner and you misgender her and you do stuff like that, I mean, people like me see that and be like, well, they don't want me in this party. So why am I going to stay? Why am I going to go back to the Republican Party? Like I said, I was a former Tea Party conservative. I left before, you know, a lot of the social activism and stuff like that happened before my transition. But that was because of the big government spending and everything that was going on. So I think if I were to look to see if I was going to vote back in the Republican Party, I mean, I can only see Rand Paul and Thomas Massie actually vote right now.
Yeah, so I want to go to Lauren on this because you made up.
See, here's what people don't seem to understand. The majority of America, and I don't mean just LGBT, I mean just people in general, do not vote on issues like big government or small government. Ultimately, most of them will vote coinciding with their cultural identity. Okay, that's how most people vote in America, probably like 70 to 80%. Okay. So whatever sort of like cultural niche in America you're aligned with, and this is why we always say politics is downstream of culture, and it's true. Usually that's kind of where your politics come from. If you grow up in the Bible Belt South, you know, you're going to be raised up likely voting the way the people around you vote in the you know, that type of the way your culture votes, which is Republican. If you grow up in the inner city, you're going to be raised in a culture that ultimately causes you to vote Democratic. Same thing with the LGBT community. And so I think the notion that like there's all these Americans, I mean, do you really think that's what happens in democracy? You know, these people really sit down and they're like, well, you know, the government, let me see. Well, I do like low taxes, but at the same time, lowering taxes would raise the budget deficit, which will hurt the economy in the long run. But I do like low taxes, and I'm really not a fan of all this government. Like, no, most people don't think that deeply. And yeah, it's sometimes economically, they will just vote on how the state of the country is doing. If it's a good economy, they'll, you know, vote like that. But the reality is the masses in this country vote based on cultural identity. And so with that considered, you have to consider the fact that without creating conservative culture, again, we've surmised that, you know, most of the time it's culture that drives electoral politics more so than policy. Then it is our duty as conservatives, if we want to win elections, to drive some type of conservative culture or expand conservatism culturally, right? And so that nullifies, it invalidates basically that person's entire political strategy to this, because it's like you have to let up on the culture and then you'll win more votes, maybe slightly. But if you really want to have some type of substantial change, substantial coalition in politics, you have to create a culture, okay, that will favor or you know, create more cultural groups that will favor your politics, because that's ultimately how politics really works, okay? It's not really about policy. It's about kind of the cultural movement you're identified with. So that's why I would say that embracing, you know, left-wing culture to try to win right-wing elections, you may win a few people. You're not going to win the masses, so...
But an interesting point. You said, then I don't know if I want to be in this party. And I think that kind of building on the question, Lauren, the question begs to differ is, number one, is there room for transsexuals or transgenders in the party? And two, what's the difference between making room in the party versus making room for them to have influence in the party?
Well, I think there's room for everybody. Like, if people want to vote Republican, they should definitely do it, regardless of how they, like, what color of skin is or what they do, whatever. Everyone should be voting for the right-wing party, as far as I'm concerned. But when they start to bring in left-wing policies as a result of that, that is a really big difference. And I'll use Caitlyn Jenner as the example of this. There's a difference between.
So true. That's all we ask. You can come over and vote. You know, you don't even have, like I said, you don't have to culturally align with everything we believe. Just don't force your, you know, don't come over to our tent though and then tell us how to run things, you know. Not good. We hate
Caitlyn
to see
Jenner
it.
saying, yeah, I'm on board the Trump train. I'm MAGA, you know, DeSantis, Trump 2024, let's go Pence, versus Caitlyn Jenner coming in and saying, yes, I am Republican, but also here are all of these different left-wing agendas that I support, like getting rid of the ban on transgender individuals in the military, which, as someone who, I have diagnosed anxiety, I am not fit to serve in the military because of my mental state. And it's just very strange to me that with military members already having a a very sadly high suicide rate, that there's, you know, the question of whether trans people can go in or not with another group that's a very high suicide rate. It's kind of just being dismissed as, oh, you're either transphobic or you're not, where there's so much more to the question there, I think. But yeah, I mean, again, this is not, I don't think if you're someone who is gay, to vote for Republicans, you should need Republicans to be having rainbows and pride flags and all of that, because that speaks more to an ideology than specifically your sexuality.
AMIR.
Exactly. I was going to say exactly. Like, I'm gay, and the Republican Party backing, the people in the Republican Party that I see back Caitlyn Jenner make me question even calling myself a Republican or being more towards the side than if they were to accept her. So I'm on the other side where, you know, I agree with Lauren where it's not all about the social aspect. I don't want to hear I don't want to hear the rainbows. I don't want anything having to do with that. What I do behind closed doors has literally nothing to do with anybody. And so when I see someone touting that or trying to get the gay vote, it seems kind of pointless to me. I don't understand why Republicans feel they need the gay vote to stay alive or pander to gay people, because you don't need that. I don't even like it. I don't even know where these polls come from. I've never selected a poll. I'm gay and I voted for Trump. Like that, I just don't understand any of it.
And the idea of sexuality or gender identity as an aspect of your political identity, that is a left-wing concept in and of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, John?
I agree with that too.
First of all, Tomi Lahren is not a conservative. She couldn't even conserve her career or her engagement, frankly. So I don't know if we can really. I don't know if we can really just take her. We have to take it with a grain of salt. I'm sorry, but it's true. It's just it happens to be the case. But on that, I will say that I think that the mistake that the right has made for the better part of the last century is that we sort of look at the inevitable and predictable results of these trends and we go, oh well, this is the part that's wrong. Third wave feminism is what's bad, but the other feminism, that was okay. This current LGBT movement is the problem, but the other stuff, it was okay. You have to understand when these principles and ideas are accepted, they will progress and ferment logically. And this is what's referred to as the slippery slope, which has been eternally vindicated, I think. And so I don't think it's enough to say that, like, okay, well, now we should probably draw the line after Caitlyn runs for governor in California. Then we'll say, well, maybe we need to start taking this a little bit more seriously. It's like these things are going to progress naturally over time. And that's just basically proven to be the case. And then I think also it's a mistake to outreach to these these different groups thinking that like a proportionate increase, like I think the figure you mentioned was like 14% to like 27%. Cool, but that's of what, 5% of the population? Whereas if you got 1% or 2% more of the white vote in this country, disaffected people in middle America who've never voted in their lives because they look at perhaps the party to which they're or with which they're more likely to sympathize, and they look, okay, well now look who they're promoting. They're promoting transgenders. They've abandoned God. They've abandoned any semblance of what actual conservatism is. I'm not going to get up and go vote for them because they're a joke. This country has relatively low political participation in terms of elections because of that. People feel disaffected and they feel like they don't have any representation, especially middle Americans. And so I think it would be a better use of GOP resources to try to, I don't know, get those people to come vote instead of saying like, hey, gay people, look, we have a rainbow flag too. And that's the other thing that I really liked about Amir and Lauren's points. It's like, if you need the conservative party, nominally conservative party, to adopt positions that pander and accommodate your particular lifestyle, then you're not a conservative. You're a gay person who happens to maybe like guns and low taxes, but you're not like by definition a conservative if that's the case.
Well, then let me ask you this before we jump.
It's so true. I
want to ask the difference of is the future.
It's simply the truth. All right, let's go. Let's hold on. Let's go to the next question here.
Of the right-wing conservative or libertarian or a hybrid of both. But I got to let you guys know that part of the reason why I kind of
imagine making the future of this movement a liberty. Yeah, because that's just worked so well. You know, you look to the state of the culture, the state of the country. You know, I don't know who in the world could look at this and think, well, you know what we need is to just basically do nothing. That's what we need. You know, we need less government power, like at all. That's what we really need. No. You look at the fact that like it's obviously not just the government, right? The direct elected government. It is the regime in general that is ultimately cracking down in this country, right? It's private business, private corporations, academia, which is somewhat connected to the government, academia, the administrative state, intelligence agencies, things like this, right? It's clearly is much more than simply, oh, it's just the government that's the problem in America. And the only way you would crack down on something like corporate America, the only power you have, because we don't exactly have control over all the Fortune 500 CEOs, you ultimately have to use government power to crack down on the real poison of America. So imagine thinking that what America needs is more libertarianism.
To stay libertarian a little bit, even though, and I don't identify as conservative, but I think libertarians are weak, and I think conservatives are both weak, is because I've watched the feds mess with me.
Conservatives are strong. We're going to become strong. Okay. All right. We're going to make ourselves strong. Okay. Watch. When the Zoomer, because the Zoomers get it, obviously, you know, because I think because we're young, or because we have more of that, like, you know, revolutionary spirit, but I would argue it's really more of a counter-revolutionary spirit, right? We get it. Okay, so let me tell you this once, and I said this on the last stream too. Once the Zoomers are in power, right, within the sort of this political movement, because that's what we're ultimately doing. Like every generation has, you know, we're interning right now. We're interning mainly at congressional offices, nonprofits, all these places. You know, once we kind of work our way up, it's going to be a different ballgame. You're going to see a very different movement. And I firmly believe that, because it's true. So anyways, we continue.
That's with a lot of people. We keep losing, and all we hear about is like, oh, Donald Trump talking about fraud. But then, okay, so what? What are we going to do? The feds are peering into our life. They want to read our text messages, which is why it's very important. And I'll tell you something called Start Mail. Start Mail keeps your email private. Someone like me gets looked at by the feds. You think that's just somebody who works in the media? Well, good luck, because you're going to find out that a lot of people are looking and trying to sell your information, and and you'll get 50%.
Okay, guys, startmail.com/offensive. Got it? Cool. All right.
And to trust what I trust, go to startmail.com/offensive to get 50% off your first year. So I want to go with that, Sarah, because Sarah, you identify as like a libertarian Catholic. And so that's kind of weird to me, because, you know, like God talks about this idea of identifying as, you know,
a libertarian Catholic. Okay. All right. No comment. Okay. But anyways.
As a Christian, and of viewing yourself of having self-control, which I could see align with being libertarian, but also we're not supposed to promote that which is evil. And I believe that we're supposed to hate that which is evil and promote that which is good. First of all, how do you, I want to just ask you simply, how do you align being Catholic, so being committed and confirmed and having your faith in God, with living a transsexual lifestyle?
I want to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at the we can look at the Bible in a lot of different ways, and we can see that Jesus preached love and tolerance, plain and simple. I mean, a lot of the passages in the Bible that
not really true,
you know, talk about, you know, gay people and trans people, all happened before Jesus came, and they're all like 1-2 lines below, like the kosher rules and stuff like that in the Bible. So if the kosher rules were fulfilled when Jesus came, then why wouldn't, like, being gay or being trans? I mean,
really is that the official position of the Catholic Church, that, you know, that's what?
As well, Jesus used a miracle to save a gay man as well. So I firmly believe that Jesus loves all the people, and we're all sinner, and we're all.
No, Jesus wants you to turn from sin. Okay, he does not want you to live in this, like,
all sinners. And you know, I think that it might not, I mean, I will never say that I'm a good Catholic, but I was raised very Catholic and Christian. We have a great church here in Atlanta that preaches tolerance and stuff like that. So it very well does align with the teachings of Jesus. Even
it
if
literally doesn't.
I mean, you still have to learn from the Old Testament, but Jesus is king, right?
Can I ask you a question? How personally, or what specifically, do you feel like with the Imago Dei, or being designed in the image of God? Do you feel like God?
All right, I got a super chat. Lincoln Burner says, filled out the form after last stream to do video editing for APU. When should I be getting a response? We'll probably be sending out responses, I'm thinking, like next week. But yeah, if you're interested in video editing, that's great. We will be in contact with you. Okay. because I need to stop doing everything for APU myself. That's really what I'm learning. So if we can get the video editing team out here going, it's going to be a great help. So we'd love to see it. Thank you. We'll probably get back to you like next week. Okay. Anyways.
That it made you incorrectly, or what is the deal with switching, or at least like medically and legally switching your sex?
Now, I believe that God created
only like a few months ago. That's why I don't go like total like, you know, sicko mode on him, because like I don't know the specific enough theology to like really like go at it, but I do know that's not true. Okay, Jesus preached to turn from sin. Okay, he preached repentance, not, you know, well, tolerate everyone living in their sin. Like, no, that's not what Jesus taught. I know that. Okay, even I know that it's not
science,
true.
And the science shows that, you know, trans people are valid. At least transsexuals are valid, and there is medical research that shows that there was a hormone imbalance in the womb, and that's kind of what creates gay and trans people.
So, Amir, obviously, you just said you're unapologetic.
This person is part of. I don't even. I like. Is there a word for this emoji? This word has often been referred to as the Dao emoji. I think actually Chandler Crump's the person that came up with that name. It's just the Dao emoji. It's true. We love to see it though. That's the best party, obviously.
Apologetically gay, but it's not the ultimate factor of your identity. I'm not trying to peer too much, but do you identify as Christian or religious at all?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, like, do you feel like being gay or transsexual, do you feel like that aligns with Christianity or not, or what are your thoughts there?
I personally don't think it aligns super well. You know, I love the Bible. I've taken a lot of Bible classes, and in high school, people were looking at me like, Amir, why are you taking this Bible class and you're gay? And I'm like, well, because I want to learn more. Like, I still can read the Bible. I still can learn from it. And, you know, I think a lot of gay people open themselves up to a lot of criticism and a lot of flag when they call themselves a gay Christian, or that they want to get married in the church as a gay man. And personally, I just find that a little hypocritical. And you're opening up for debate, because I mean, I've always heard this as a kid. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So I don't know. When it comes to gay homosexuality in the Bible, I haven't looked too much into it, but what I have seen, I can't knock those of the likes like friend John or Bryson Gray, who say all these things directly from the Bible. Like, I can't knock them for saying that. I can't knock them for just quoting the book. So that's just where I stand on it.
Lauren?
Well, I think the conflation, I think being trans and being gay or lesbian are two very different things. Just like morally, philosophically, even medically, when it comes to the whole trans issue. I'm a kid from the 90s, so I always taught that it was a medical condition. So you mentioned being born in the image of God. I wouldn't see someone who I guess has like a medical condition where they feel dysphoria as anyone else, you know, different or any less in the image of God than someone who has any other mental illness like my anxiety or schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, so that's in regard to the trans issue. And in regard to the, you know, being gay and things like that, well, I think the first thing is that the church is very clear about what marriage is. Marriage is between a man and a woman. What I find very strange, though, is that there are Christians who will be very, very condemning in regard to things like homosexuality, but saying nothing about things like divorce within the church and all these things. I'm not someone who thinks that Jesus excuses sins, but we are also told that all of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So I think as Christians, we need to remind ourselves that our goal is not just to condemn, but also to bring the gospel, which is the good news that, you know, anyone is able to accept the gift of salvation through Christ if they believe in him and take on his name. What I find a little bit frustrating is Christians who believe that there is no, you know, preach that there is no such thing as sin, or you know, that they are not sinful. I think it's like as Christians, we just need to have a more codified message, and it cannot just be gay bad, because that's, you know, Sarah is right. Christ did not speak specifically about being gay. He talks about things like lust, but there's just much more to it. And so you know, when we have these people like Westboro Baptists who are a fringe minority, I don't think they understand the fullness of the gospel.
John?
As a Catholic, I would say basically that the opposite of what Sarah said is true in terms of the Bible outlining sexual immorality, particularly homosexuality. Even in the New Testament, I think it's mentioned.
So
in
true. Here you
Luke.
go. Here we go.
And it says, I mean, God made man and woman to be unified together in one flesh. And I think that oftentimes there's sort of a pivot from these LGBT people who are Christians, and they'll say, well, actually what Jesus said is that we need to be loving and tolerant. And it's like, okay, true. He also said that we're not in a position to declare one sin is worse than another sin or some person is better than the other, which means literally that if all sins are to be measured, you know, basically as equal, it means that like the murderer is not different in the eyes of God than the homosexual, because everybody is a sinner, right? And so if the objection there is, oh yeah, I'm a murderer, but you know, Jesus actually said that we need to be loving and accepting, and so that's actually not a fair criticism. It's like, no, it's totally fair, and perhaps that's an extreme comparison, but nonetheless it holds
But I
true.
mean, that the same goes true for anything like envy, greed, or gluttony. You're
True.
also as bad as a murderer.
True.
So I mean, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but just for context, it's not just about being gay versus being a murderer. It's about everything we do that's against the Bible.
Right, but particularly we're talking about Christianity as it's squared with LGBT issues, which is why I wanted to bring that up. But even like the term like gender means literally like gen. Think of Genesis. Generation, it means to generate. Dermatology, taxidermist, it means flesh. The word literally means to generate new flesh. The term itself is defined by the capacity to procreate with a woman or with a man or whatever. So like gender and sex are not actually separate. Like they literally mean the same thing until maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I want to bring this up. You can go to my screen here. So Tommy, and the reason why I brought up the Christian debate, and I think it's interesting, number one, because Sarah, you put Catholic in your bio. So not everybody, defines very closely with their faith. And just like some people put atheist in their bio, I thought that was interesting because I would say that the majority standardized idea from the Bible would be that outliving or intentionally living against the will of God puts you in a very precarious place, and either could show that you did not originally have a true born again given experience with God where you had actually confessed and given up your sins. But on the other end too, with compatibility, people do understand that we are weak. That it even says there's verses just like about God judging us, or about the fact that we need to confess our sins. There's also that God knows that we are weak and he has mercy on us, right? So there's a lot of this debate, especially between Catholics and Protestants, between Arminianists and Calvinists. I mean, we're not going to get into that today, but I do want to kind of bring this up a little bit on this debate. Tommy Lahren said, and I brought this up because she goes, I believe in limited government, and I'm also Christian enough to know that it's not up to us to judge, which is, again, a biblically untrue statement. We're told not to judge someone's ultimate salvation, whether they're going to hell, but it's important for, the Bible says, for us to judge and to discern, right? It uses different words.
Judge
righteously, it uses judge
yes.
and discernment. But I was also taught that heckling and harassing others is despicable. Believe it or not, you are not the warden, or I think, of conservatism or Christianity. So I think that we have a real big problem with the involvement of how much religion specifically, because I think a lot of people really aren't very faithful people and they don't really have a relationship with God. I think a lot of Christianity in the right wing is very religious. It's a very rule oriented. And so starting with Sarah, I mean, you say you're a Catholic. What role does Christianity have in the right wing, and how do you connect that with being libertarian and hands off?
I mean, I am very much, when it comes to government, church and state, everything like that, separation. I don't think that really Christianity has any role in government, especially as a libertarian. I think that...
Oh, but of course it does. Of course it does. We've been over this many times, but, Christianity forms the moral framework for America, forms the backbone of America. It's very interesting to point out that even though, John Locke was, I think, a deist, atheist, whatever, and so was Thomas Jefferson or whatever, the circumstances that America grew out of and a lot of these Enlightenment ideas grew out of was a extremely historically Christian population. And it's very important to point out that Christianity has had and always will, or we should have, a political influence in America. Okay, and we've been over this. We had the other stream. Okay, we've been over this. We've been debunked the whole church and state thing. We've gone over the fact that it doesn't mean that religious ideas and religious motivations can't influence politics. It simply means, again, that the government cannot establish a state religion. We've been over this, but whatever.
I just want to go live my faith as I see fit, on my own, without with the protections of the First Amendment. But other than that, I don't think we should be, legislating based on, biblical law. It's like saying that we should be,
Literally,
we can also legislate
literally,
on
we should.
Quran law. It's the same thing, just different people's perspective.
Amir?
No, it's not the same thing. Okay, you know why it's not the same thing? Because America's a Christian nation, and we've gone over this historically Christian population, founded out of a Christian population. That's the difference. That's the reason why it's different from, because America's not a historically Muslim nation. Sure, it has Muslims in it, but Muslims haven't formed the kind of historic backbone for the population in the same way Christians have. It's that simple. That's the difference. That's the difference. Not being, what makes one religion different from another religion? The difference being that America was built off of this one religion, not the other one. That's literally the difference. That's literally why it's different. So
like I said, I stay out of the whole Christian debate when it comes to gays. I am not that well read on it because like John said,
how many moderate?
It clearly talks about men and women, and when it comes to this
topic, who's a moderate?
I just like there's a lot of.
I think it's this guy,
like
right?
I said, like
American
a lot of problems that gays run into themselves openly, and not acknowledging these clear-cut issues and topics that are stated out in the Bible, and even stated out if they truly believe and feel that they are what sexuality they say they are. Because at the end of the day, if it's me and a woman at the end of the world, there's nothing I can do. So I can't even put out what God has written in the book for us to intend to do.
Yeah, what I'm saying, but this is important because you said you're not particularly religious. You don't have a faith. I mean, I know a lot of our viewers, people can be as far as dedicated, born-again Protestants, committed Catholics to total, anarchist atheists.
Well,
so I know that people are on the spectrum. And so a lot of people that are listening, I would say a good amount of the audience is agnostic or atheist or however you define yourself. But I would say that there's also a bigger majority of conservatives of the right wing that are Christian or at least religious and believe in those things. So I really want to know, as somebody who is gay, with Christianity saying that that is not the way God intended us to live, with someone who is Republican, or at least, I'm sure you're becoming more disillusioned, but who believes in these, knowing that the party is more influenced and controlled by that. I mean, the left was going to look at you, Amir, and be like, well, you're a blathering idiot because that's not the party that likes you. They don't want you. They don't want you in there. Look how they treat, Caitlyn Jenner. So how do you reconcile the place of Christianity, or at least of Christian influence, in the party with the lifestyle and the religious beliefs that you hold?
And that's a good question. When it comes on the topic, let's say for marriage, for example, I would prefer if the government just stayed out of marriage totally and just kept it alone. And, if you want to get married in the church and part of your religious backgrounds, that's fine. But as a gay man, the only reason that I want to get married, within the state, is just so I can have the same benefits and the same legal protections as a straight couple. But when it comes to the Bible, I do like a lot of what's laid out in it. I enjoyed all the classes I took in Bible. I grew up in the church.
This is the most mods I've ever seen on one stream. It is simply true.
I enjoy a lot of the basis that's within it. I guess my only disagreement with it is the lifestyle that I'm living. But besides that, I really do enjoy what's in the Bible and the content that it proposes for what a society should be and should look like.
John, you seem to have a thought on that.
It's kind of a cop-out, though, to be honest, because I get it. Oh, well, the government shouldn't be in marriage. Ideally, probably the case, right? It should remain a solely religious institution. But we do live in this society where it kind of has to be like that. There has to be some type of financial status to marriage, right? And so you have to do. What are you going to do about it? You got to do something about it, right? And I think that. I don't think the government should recognize, a gay relationship the same way it legally recognizes a straight relationship, because that obviously implies that the two are equivalent in a certain way, which I don't think that they are. So that's my stance on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think the difference between the Bible and the Quran is that the Quran is fake and the Bible is real.
So
And
that's
that
true.
just, I mean, if
So
you're a
true.
Christian, that's like literally what you believe.
So
You believe
true.
in the divinity
True.
and the truth of Christ, Logos. And so I think that you're almost called to spread that truth and to say that this is actually correct and this is what we need to do. And there's sort of this idea that permeates on the right that like, oh, well, there should be no law that makes an attempt to compel individual behavior. That's not true. Every law we have, whether that's a speed limit, whether that's taxes on soda, like it all exists to try to compel individual behavior towards a way that the government deems is correct. I would actually almost only trust Christians to hold power in government because as
What
the
was
founding
that?
fathers do. And by the way, there's this,
What was that? We had a gunshot in the background. Okay.
what is it? The separation of church and state. The founding fathers were deists. They weren't Christian. That's not true. You can find like even someone sent me this last night, some of Washington's old journals where he said that this country could only function if they were immoral or no, just a Christian people. It was James Madison who wrote the Constitution who said that it has to be immoral and religious people, particularly referring to Christianity. I would only trust Christians to wield power in this country because man is flawed. And if he doesn't have a deep relationship with God and that fear of God in him,
If Vince lives in Detroit, no, it wasn't. It didn't come from me. It came from the stream. That was very no. I mean the video. That was no. Okay, it wasn't. It didn't come from here. It very clearly came from the computer. Okay. So the answer really is that John lives in Detroit. Well, he used to live in Detroit. That was not me. That was not me. And yes, it is true. It is true. John, you always misquote that. Okay, that comes from John Adams. And you can Google that, okay? John often misquotes this, okay? John, it's Adams. It's Adams who said that. It's actually true. It's actually true. You can look it up. John misquoted Doyle. All right. Anyways.
He will eventually, in a long enough timeline, find a way to rationalize his own desires and pursuits and selfishness over the needs of the people over whom he's governing. So I would only trust Christians to wield power in this country. And then what was the other point? Marriage. That's, I think, kind of a pivot that conservatives like to do. Like the government just needs to be out of marriage. Marriage is pre-political. Marriage exists before this country, before probably even the concept of government. So government needs to be involved in marriage in that it affirms what it is as an institution in society, which frankly is the backbone of society, is families and marriage. And to elevate the marriage of a man and a woman to the same level legally as that between two men is just frankly an abomination because they're not at all the same thing. And society has a vested interest in the marriage between a man and a woman because they create those families which form the backbone of the society. We need them to stay together, to have a healthy, prosperous relationship so that the children who will become the future of that society are doing well. And we know, of course, that the breakdown of that family structure has led to numerous catastrophes in terms of like the social cohesion and well-being of the society. And to say that that relationship is equal to a relationship between two men or two women and it should be seen as such in the eyes of the state is just not true. It's just misaligned with reality.
Lauren, I'm interested to hear you real fast. I just want to point out to the viewers, just so they don't know, a lot of people don't know that there's a major attacks like backfiring in Canada. I know you're from Canada. They don't probably know that. And they're burning down a lot of Catholic Christian churches, from my understanding, dozens actually, in backlash for what they feel was crimes from
what is this? What is this? I want to see the response.
So obviously Christianity is,
what does that have to
I
do
would
with
say,
it?
being fought or under attack where you're coming from. And so you would be somebody very, I would say, qualified to speak about the place of all of this inside of politics.
Right. Well, as someone who does think that the state should get out of marriage, that's not to say that the state should treat gay marriage and marriage between a man and a woman the same. I don't think the state should be in the position to grant legal marriage certificates at all, nor should it be in the position to say who you can and cannot leave things to in terms of wills, who you can and cannot visit in terms of things like hospitalization or insurance, which are just some of the benefits that the state now gives to people who are married. I don't think the state should be in a position to do any of that. Again,
why though? Why? Because the benefit of marriage is like financially, you get a benefit. That's a good thing, okay? It's a good thing, if not at the very least to incentivize people to get married, which we obviously need, and we know why that is a good thing and why it is necessary for people in society to get married. Why shouldn't, this is the libertarian take, well, we shouldn't be giving, preferential treatment to anyone. Why? No, I want to give preferential treatment to people who are married and people who have kids. Okay, especially even maybe the amount of kids you have should also, we should ultimately as a society, especially in order to build a healthy society, you have to incentivize at the very least, if not like control directly, at least incentivize what is good and de-incentivize what is bad. So if we establish as conservatives, which we can, that marriage is good, family is good, kids are good, why should the government not incentivize marriage, family, and kids. I hate this libertarian take so much. Don't show favoritism when we clearly know as conservatives, like, what is the right way to live. And we should incentivize the right way to live. We should, I literally, like, I used to say this too, because I used to be a libertarian, unfortunately, but I am absolutely in favor of financial benefits for marriage. You need financial benefits for marriage because you want to make it easier. You want to make it something that people want to do to get married. So it is true. Let me actually change the battery on my camera because it's running out here, but
because I'm more libertarian. That's not to say that marriage is not important, but to me, marriage is a contract before God. That is, I mean, what the state does is kind of moot. I like getting the tax break, sure, but I don't think anyone should be paying taxes, I guess, is where I'm coming from to begin with. So the way that my...
Oh yeah, Lobert, who's going to build the roads? Literally the case. Literally the case. You have the roads meme. Libertarians get owned by public roads. Hey, Lobert. Hey, libertarian. Why are you driving on public roads? Oh, libertarians own yet again. Those memes are so old. I shouldn't even be giving those credit, but because they weren't even that funny to begin with. But we might as well. It is the case. See, that's the thing though, is like, oh yeah, well, I just don't think people should be paying taxes to begin with. Okay, but they do. And they kind of have to, and yeah, I believe in lowering taxes too, but they do pay taxes and there's still going to be taxes. So if it is the case, well, okay, who should we be giving tax incentives to? Should we be giving tax incentives, especially as conservatives, as Christians, as people who like want to build this healthy family-centric society? What is so bad about giving tax breaks to people who have families as opposed to people who, live very lonely, alone, anti-family lifestyles? You're better than this, Lauren.
I
Come
kind
on.
of pivot between an anarchist versus just a booming theocrat. I am a little bit at war with myself lately. And that's because, well...
No, okay. Well, I get it. I guess she doesn't consider herself a conservative, but we actually talked about this on a stream once. Anarchy is, I think, the most anti-conservative, like, as in terms of what we believe. Like, I think that's what we as conservatives probably hate more than anything else. It's not even so much communism or socialism. It's anarchy, because, a society that is anarchical obviously would reject hierarchy, right? And it would reject order. And I think those are two things that conservatives fundamentally stand for more than anything else. Is we stand for order, we stand for hierarchy, and that which opposes that in multiple ways. And obviously anarchy throws all of that out the window. Is the most anti-conservative thing you could have, I think, is anarchy, a state of anarchy. A conservative state is a state of order, right? It is a state of hierarchy. That which lacks that is not conservative.
What frustrates me about a lot of the libertarian movement nowadays is that they view liberty as the ends and the means. It's not just we should have the freedom to do something, but it's that your choice must be inherently moral because you are the one that chose it, which I think is ridiculous. I can appreciate that people have the right to choose to do something without actually thinking it is the moral thing for them to do. So I'm someone who wants small government, but I grew up in Asia. It's an honor-shame culture. I believe that a moral backbone is very, very important for society. Dennis Prager, he says, if you want small government, you have to have a big God. And I agree with that. But kind of just getting onto your questions that you were asking Sarah, how she feels being transsexual while identifying as a Catholic, I would love to ask the same thing to people who are, for example, doing things like living with their partner outside of wedlock and calling themselves a Catholic, people who are engaging in premarital sex, anyone who has had an abortion, people who use the Lord's name in vain. As John said earlier, all sins are equal before the eyes of the Lord. And I think as Christians, I'm not trying to downplay, the whole issue of sexual morality. I actually want to elevate it because I think we've kind of gotten to the point as Christians where we just view this as a culture war. But are we policing our own? Are we encouraging Christian behavior and church-going people. I've seen tons of, nameless avatars
Yeah,
online.
murder's not on the same
kind of
level as
harassing
like stealing a
Caitlyn
cookie,
Jenner, which
like,
is not a Christian thing to do. But
doesn't make
meanwhile,
sense.
they're the ones who are swearing. Are they going to church? Are they living godly lives themselves? I hope so, but I have my doubts.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about this a little more in the direction we're headed as a country and maybe some solutions, because rather than just talking about problems, I want to kind of hear from you guys. And just so you know, to the audience, to the snowflake people sometimes who will watch this, there's a few of you guys watching this right now who will get offended. The point of these panels, like bringing somebody on who's of different genders, of race, of sexuality, of even expression, it's not because it's the left wing and we have to use identity politics. The purpose of all this is to give different experience, to give different views, and to bring people together. That's why we call this conservative TMZ, because it's people who lean towards freedom, towards an expression of wanting better for the country, but clearly have different lifestyles and routes to get there. And so
let me show you something real quick. Are all sins equal? I don't know where this idea comes from, but it's just I mean, and look. When I'm more seasoned, we can talk more theology, but that doesn't like
of sexuality.
That's just not true. It wouldn't even make sense that it is true. What God views murdering 20 people the same way he views, like, I don't know, petty theft or something. Like, no, that's just not how it works. It's not true. Anyways,
of even expression, it's not because it's the left wing and we have to use identity politics. The purpose of all this is to give different experience, to give different views, and to bring people together. That's why we call this conservative TMZ, because it's people who lean towards freedom, towards an expression of wanting better for the country, but clearly have different lifestyles and routes to get there. And so if you disagree with somebody, if you don't like somebody, just learn to embrace it. And if you love someone, make sure you support them as well. But I got to let you know before we move on to the next topic that we do live into the turbulent world. People don't agree. We don't know what's going to happen. We've seen problems like the power grid failing here in Texas. There's been issues where we didn't have food for a week, and you know exactly what's going on in this country. And you know what's coming next? Well, no matter what happens, food will always be your number one concern. And if there's a sudden food shortage like there was here, were you prepared? Are you prepared? If not, you need to get yourself some long-term storage emergency food from My Patriot Supply. I'm going to tell you guys that their food stays headed, and I think that my dinner, drinks, and snacks, plus, like I said, that are food that will save you and your family. Sarah, kind of going into this, you seem to be somebody who's pretty level-headed, and I think that might surprise some people who you might call transphobic, or people who, vehemently refuse to associate with anybody who lives the way that you do, right? And I mean, it could be, we have a lot of different people that believe a lot of different things.
I did skip
but
it.
You said that you were part of the Walk Away movement, and now you're, here in the Republican Party. We're losing badly right now. We've lost an election, whether it was legally or illegally. I happen to think the latter. We have lost our institutions of education. We do not control the media. Pretty much the culture has fallen to the left and into immorality. How does the party opening up to people like you help our position and move our country forward? Or
here we go.
What do we do to move our country forward and to help it?
I'm interested. I'm actually interested to see this answer. I wonder what this individual is going to say.
I think we have to keep on the same track as, yes, you're right. I think you just lost an election, and right now a lot of social conservatives are trying to push LGBT people away. I think, and a lot of people on this panel might disagree, I think Donald Trump was a detriment to conservative values.
Of course you do. Because what are conservative values to you? Small government, low taxes, basically the entire campaign platform of the Barry Goldwater campaign in 1964. That's your definition of conservatism. Well, actually, let's give the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what these supposedly conservative values are.
Because Donald Trump was not a conservative. He was a big government actor. Where
based. Okay, let's see.
Was part of the Tea Party.
Tea Party's it was not a conservative movement. I mean, I guess in some ways it kind of was, but it was really more of a libertarian movement. Let's let him finish. Hold on.
In the Republican Party, because those small government values that I had in the Tea Party were not being shown. As soon as Republicans get into office, it seems like they just want to spend on their pet projects just as much, if not more, than what Democrats do. So I think you have to get back to the small government principles in order to draw more people who, like me, are taxation is theft.
Oh really? Oh really? Is that the case? Oh, we got him, boys. We got him, boys. Okay, is that the case? Huh? Is it the case that in order to draw more people, right? What we really need are more small government values, because as we know, that's just so popular in America right now, right? What people really want is a smaller government. Is that really how people think in America? Is that really how people vote in America en masse? That's really just not true. Okay, it is just not true that like most Americans actually want a smaller government. No, it's not. And I would say even conservatives in America, yeah, they want lower taxes and stuff like that. But let me tell you this, if the Republican Party actually shrunk the size of the government tomorrow, the reality of the situation is they'd get screwed. I mean, they'd get absolutely demolished in the next election if they touch something like Social Security or Medicare or whatever it is. The vast majority of or even the Republican constituency actually likes those things. Sure, they want the marginal tax rates lowered a little bit. Okay. I would argue a lot of them probably aren't even really voting on that, right? But even if it's just somewhat okay. But it is just not the case that's what's popular in America right now. It is really not what's been popular in America for some time. That's why let me say this. That's why Make America Great Again, that movement was successful politically and the Tea Party was not. That's why the Tea Party never went further than like getting a few senators into office. Because
we're not being shown. I mean, as soon as
it's just not a movement that is popular among the general American population. I think the average American really wants to know questions like, how am I going to put food on the table? Right? It's very hard for me to raise children anymore. And especially even like people who are a little bit younger, like it's very difficult for me to find a home, right? To own a home, to get married, to have children, right? The system is crushing my ability to do that. Do you think those people really care so much about your abstract principles regarding small government? Do you think that's really what working people in America are like really concerned about? It's like, oh, the damn government's too big. Or do you think they really feel more like the government doesn't do anything for me, right? Right. It does a lot for like the super poor. It does a lot for immigrants, and it does a lot for foreign nations. But what the hell does the government do for me? Right. That's the populist message that I think the Republican Party can win on, like, oh, we're here, this system works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for the average working American family. You run on that message, and that's really the message that Trump ran on in 2016. In 2020, he largely abandoned it, and I would argue that's part of the problem, among other things. You run on that message, you are going to win. Because who in America who is like a normal human being, a normal mom, dad, even maybe someone who's like a younger person who's trying to become a mom or dad, what person doesn't resonate with that? What person doesn't feel that? Whereas, the government, the damn government's too big. We have all this, all the defense spending, man, it's too expensive. No, average Americans really don't feel that. They really don't notice that. Of course, they have some type of tax burden, but it's not really like a huge thing for them. So yes, if the Republican Party embraces a big government message, we will actually win more, because do you think let me tell you the reality, a lot of people who vote for Democrats don't, the young crazy activists do, obviously, but a lot of people don't really like the whole left-wing social agenda. They really don't. Most Americans are opposed to that. The reason why Democrats are still so competitive electorally is because Republicans oftentimes fail to present solutions to, socioeconomic problems, that sort of feeling of social immobility and the feeling that it's much harder to raise a middle-class family than it once was. So something to consider here, okay?
Get into office, it seems like they just want to spend on their pet projects just as much, if not more, than what Democrats do. So I think you have to get back to the small government principles in order to draw more people who, like me, are taxation is theft. We don't think that Donald Trump's tax cuts went nearly far enough. We didn't agree with, all the inflational policies that were tariffs and everything like that. Otherwise, you're going to keep losing. And I tend to say that the Libertarian Party, which I am actually a libertarian, I voted for Joe Jorgensen in the last election. I think that we are going to continue to grow. I mean, look what happened in Georgia. David Perdue arrogantly thought that he had the libertarian vote, but what they don't understand is libertarians won't vote if people don't hold their values. I voted for David Perdue in the runoff. I'm very good friends with Shane Hazel.
Okay, the math doesn't agree with you. The reason why David Perdue lost is not because of the libertarian vote. It's because of the Trump vote. Okay, you saw like Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. I think the drop off was like 20-30% or something. That's the reason why. It was the rural turnout in the areas that went heavily for Trump dropped off because people didn't want to vote for David Perdue. The Trump voters didn't want to vote for David Perdue. It's really revisionist history to say, well, libertarians are what cost you the runoffs. No, it's not. It's the hardcore Trump base. That's what cost David Perdue the runoffs because they didn't want to vote for him.
So
not true. It's just wrong. It's just wrong.
And I think that David Perdue not going on Shane Hazel's show really hurt the party, and he did nothing to court the libertarian vote. So libertarians didn't show up for him.
It's just wrong.
Okay, so then that's kind of AMIR. I'll bring that in too. I mean, you seem to be somebody who's actually quite not the normal person, where you are living and you say you identify as gay. You also say you're non-religious, but you're also like, I haven't adopted the left's self-identity of this social Marxism. So kind of moving forward, I mean, do you agree with Sarah? Is that what we do? Do we bring people in, or do we move further right or more conservative? Like how do we actually win, since we really are sore losers right now?
No, we bring different people in. We've been over this, okay? The people we should be bringing in are people who are more socially conservative. But like I said, often vote for Democrats because Republicans don't present solutions to things like, I don't know, healthcare, and economics and whatnot, right? That's the flank you go for. And we've been over this with the Pew Research poll. If you want to talk about the Hispanic vote, that's really the divide, right? Hispanics are a group that like 80% want a bigger, more, for instance, pro-life than the general population on average, but also a group that by huge margins, like 80%, which is like 40% more than the U.S. general population, want a bigger government providing more services. Now you see the divide, and that's just, I would argue it's very analogous with a lot of the white working class, right? It's like they agree with the Republicans on the social issues, right? They are very against this left-wing cultural stuff, but they have this feeling that when it comes to, and this is starting to change, obviously, and Trump's the reason why this has really started to change, but they have this feeling that like the Republican Party is just doesn't look out for them economically in a lot of ways. That's how you expand the tent. That's a lot of people in America, much more than like, I don't know, this vain attempt to win over a bunch of cultural progressives. That's the direction you ought to go, right? And I think obviously because it's more of a cultural appeal, right? Like I said, you appeal to like more traditionalist on the social issue leaning cultures. It's a lot easier to, I think, win elections on a cultural front than trying to go to, a bunch of social progressives and win that group. We've been over this though. Again, I feel like I repeat myself so much, but it's just true that's the direction the Republican Party goes into to win elections, and the numbers add up. The numbers for this whole, I don't know, whatever this is, it doesn't work. It's not effective.
Again, I may be different, but the right going more conservative is what brought me over in the first place. It wasn't rainbows that brought me over. It wasn't gay conservatives that brought me over. It was watching these videos, your videos, John's videos, Flecka's, and actually seeing like, oh, they make sense. Let's just see what they're talking about. And that's what's won a lot of me and my gay friends over. I don't need the pandering. I don't need any of that. But I really don't think you need to really prop up gay people just to get the gay vote or kind of bring more gay people over. Because again, like I always say, being gay is the least interesting thing about me. And I always tell people when they're coming out, or like all the gay guys that message me, like, hey, you don't have to make this your whole identity. It's what you do behind closed doors. Just leave it at that. Stop shoving it in people's faces. Leave the kids alone and just go about your day. And so when it comes from the future of conservatives and Republicans, I just rather them focus on the things that they want to focus on, and gradually people will come over. But I don't need you to prop up gay people.
No, this is true too. It's like, this kind of goes back to the whole thing we talked once about nuanced rhetoric. But if you stand strong for something, whatever it is, you know, you're inherently more convincing than if you're kind of caving by pandering, right? And yeah, to some degree, pandering does work when you do it correctly. Obviously, it's like, yeah, like it's people are people. That's always how it's going to be. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's actually more effective to really have a strong message than a weak one, especially as a conservative, because obviously, you know, when America's more of a center-right country typically. So that's why you often see Democrats tend to win elections when they moderate their message, right? Think the Overton window, right? It's slightly to the right. So that's why Democrats who are more moderate tend to win more, right? Like 2008 Obama, Biden tried to play as a moderate, right? Whereas what you notice when Republicans try to moderate, they usually lose. McCain was like one of the most liberal Republicans we'd had. And then beyond that, you had Romney, who was also like one of the most liberal Republican candidates. They both got demolished, right? Not only is that simply because I think conservatism ultimately is an ideology more based off of strength, so you have to portray strength in order to be a convincing conservative, but I think it's also because you have this Overton window in America, and so it actually helps Republicans to really stand for something. Moderate Republicans tend to fail, whereas moderate Democrats tend to succeed for that reason. Because it's a center-right country, the Overton window is tipped slightly to the right. Interesting thing to consider. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it like that, but it is the case. So strong messaging from the Republican Party is just more convincing. Also, when you're more confident, when you're presenting something like, yeah, this is what I believe, not freaking apologizing for it, you look like you believe more strongly in what you believe in, and that's just inherently more convincing, right? If you're strong, if you seem like you know what you're talking about, people will naturally just follow you because that's how people work. So that's true
to get
as well.
the gay vote when you have other areas and demographics that you can target to get the vote more. And that extends out to even Black people. Why are you targeting Black people so much when it's clear that Hispanics are the one that you should be targeting? Like, why are you? What are we doing here? It's this identity politics game.
So true. Amir look at this. Look at Amir stealing my talking points here. Look at this. Look at this.
It's what you do behind closed doors. Just leave it at that. Stop shoving it in people's faces. Leave the kids alone, and just go about your day. And so when it comes from the future of conservatives and Republicans, I just rather them focus on the things that they want to focus on, and gradually people will come over. But I don't need to.
All right, I rewinded too far back
to get the gay vote when
excited.
You have other areas and demographics that you can target to get the vote more. And that extends out to even Black people. Why are you targeting Black people so much when it's clear that Hispanics are the one that you should be targeting?
So true. So look at that. Look at that. Amir watches my stuff. It's true. It's true. We all know it is the case.
Like, why are you? What are we doing here? It's this identity politics game that this thing really needs to just end.
Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Identity politics, you know, the right, anytime they try to play that, they lose. It's because, I mean, the left is going to be playing that angle so much better than the right.
Let me say, that's not true. You know why they lose on identity politics is because they try to play identity politics in the same way that the left plays identity politics. And that's not going to work, right? The right has to form, because identity politics is actually effective in a sense, right? It's effective in the sense that, like, if you... Well, all politics, really, when you think about it, has some degree of identity politics. Because if you're appealing to a certain community, I don't know, let's just say you're in the Midwest appealing to the white working class there. You're trying to appeal to like union workers. You're going to give a different message slightly than you would somewhere else, right? Because but the difference is the right has to play to more, I think, substantive parts of their identity, right? The left can, because in order to be a leftist, you inherently have to be, to a degree, somewhat shallow-minded in that way, can get away with very lazy identity politics. Oh, look, I'm black, I'm gay, I'm Latinx, quote unquote. Okay, so look, we're just like you. Okay, we're diverse. Vote for us. I think the way the conservative has to play identity politics is something more deeper along the lines of, like, you know, I don't know, I'm Christian, right? Or if you're appealing to a lot of Midwesterners or Hispanic voters, you have to say, well, look, we love Catholics. We love Catholic values. Yeah, the GOP is a more Protestant party historically, but, like, you know, here are the values we agree on, and socially we basically align the same, you know, stuff like that. That works. But propping up someone and saying, hey, look, we have a gay Republican, that doesn't work. You have to play into, I think, more deeply held values that someone's identity as a Midwesterner, as a Southerner, as a Southwesterner, whatever it is, you are kind of instilled within you, right? That's the type of identity politics the right has to play. That's why identity politics doesn't work for the right, because the right plays them in a way that is left-wing and lazy. But there are definitely aspects of identities of certain groups that you have to go after, that you should play into, that you should make an appeal to. They just don't do it correctly, really. So
ever could. And it's like, look, if you're a Republican, do you want to give a gay person a rainbow flag, or do you want to give them a job? Do you want to deliver them border security and tax cuts? I mean, these are policies that everybody, and in terms of, like, who should be voting Republican? Look, I think everybody should be voting Republican. Doesn't mean that you pander to every single special interest group, but I think if the right would actually just deliver on the promises they make while they're campaigning, they would be so much more popular. And I think that the reason why Republicans didn't do as well during midterms last time around isn't because they didn't go right enough. It's because they didn't deliver on campaign promises. Things like healthcare reform, things like doing more work on immigration, actually cutting spending, like Sarah is saying. Republicans talk a big talk, but then they spend like drunken sailors when they're actually in office on their own pet projects. So, I mean, I'm not really concerned whether Republicans go left or right. I just want them to actually be effective and do something for once.
John, to close it out.
I agree. I would like to see
I think inherently for Republicans to be effective, they'd have to go to the right? Because the more left they go, what are they going to be effective at? They're weakening their policy positions and their goals. So obviously, in order to be more effective, you have to move the party to the right, because if you want it to wield power, you want to use power, you got to push it in that direction, right? But anyways,
competent Republican government as well, and that's why I think it's a mistake to regard small government and conservatism as synonymous, because I don't think that's the case at all. Synonymous. I think that we had a society 70 years ago.
Fusionism is not conservatism. Okay, repeat after me. Put it in the chat. Fusionism is not conservatism. Thank you for putting I know you're typing it in chat right now. We'd love to see it. Thank you very much for doing so. Very good.
Where we could have a small government because we had institutional control, be it through the church, be it through the communities, education, Hollywood, the media. I mean, you weren't seeing nearly the level of degenerate content being promoted back then as you are now. And because there's this thing that happened, what's referred to as the Long March, where the left literally infiltrated all of our institutions over the course of about 80 years. And now we're here where we have absolutely no institutional power or representation. And I wish that weren't the case. I wish that we could all live and let live. I think people who are predisposed towards right-wing thought wish that we could just kind of live and let live and not have to wield power. But the reality of politics is that it comes down to power. It comes down to influencing people. And we have no capacity to do that right now, except for the hypothetical scenario that we could occupy government power. But even then, what's our answer? Well, no, we need small government. So we basically have either we get screwed and then we have small government, or we get screwed and then maybe we have a chance to, like, Tom Brady fourth quarter this with, like, getting an actual, like, competent government in the position that we could now. And that's the thing is like,
so true.
And I'm a Christian, so I believe in demonic influence. I think that this country is so possessed by demonic influence. Like, look at all the things that we've elevated to the mainstream narratives: abortion, like greed, gluttony, just everything that is a sin is broadcast into the mainstream and put into our classrooms and our children's faces. And it's like, I'm of the opinion that the only way that you could cut the supply of that off, because I don't think we have enough time to have our own long march and go through the institutions. I also think biologically our time preference has been eroded by things like technology, social media,
Basically,
to where
yeah.
we need new information now. I don't think we have the discipline to actually like go through that process, nor do we have the focus. I think literally the only chance that we have would be to infiltrate government and wield that power effectively to basically crush the communists into the ground, which maybe we flinch hearing that, but that's exactly what happened 100 years ago. 100 years ago in this country, you could not get a job in media, you could not get a job in education if you were a communist. And then they said, well, wait a minute, no, we just like free speech. And then the American thought, okay, if it's just a little bit of free speech, you can have it. And what did you give them the free speech? They infiltrate the institutions, they kick you out. And now you are in exactly the same position that they were 100 years ago, and they've convinced you that it's a virtue because you're being tolerant or something like that, but they're going to crush you.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're at today. We're going to continue these conversations throughout the months and continue to talk about these are hard things and things are changing. Sometimes you even have to ask the same question.
Notice how receptive each person is to what John like. Honestly, if you don't get that as a conservative, I don't know what to tell you, because we're at a point where I think the consequences of allowing the long march to happen are pretty clear. This one right here is a little bit skeptical to what John said. You notice that, right? You notice that.
Questions, which is why even though I'm overcoming this is like 12 days of like laryngitis,
you
and horrible
idiot.
things. I know.
It was a joke. He's like, haha, my dad has laryngitis. Let's all hang out with him. And then we're just like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. And then we all got laryngitis.
And then everyone got sick. But you guys who are here, by the way, as I know Lauren has a heart out, you can follow Lauren, John, Amir, and Sarah in all the links in the description. Most of them either have YouTube channels, Instagram, Twitter. They're all going to be there, and check it out. I think Lauren has a new website out as well, where you can check that out, and John does too. Before we go any further and we close it out, I want to let you guys know that the easiest and the freest way to help the show is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's free, it costs you nothing, and it helps us out so much. As you know, we have been demonetized on Facebook, on YouTube. I don't even know how long we'll last here, but ultimately speaking, we rely on these reviews to let advertisers know that this is the spot to be. And so we might even read yours. Here's 2 reviews from Eve's namesake. It said, a beacon in the dark, Elijah Savannah, thanking God for you both for going forth with Holy Ghost boldness. It's terrifying and daunting sometimes, but y'all really have encouraged me to speak up. Much love, beautiful
is there
people.
Closing statements, or
no, I think that's actually the peace sign. Okay, and we also have one from J Hughes 4031 says, absolutely legendary.
Okay,
I love what you guys are doing.
So
Elijah and John have both been very influential in me deciding to launch my own YouTube channel and podcast. Thank you guys for everything you do. God bless, and I hope to meet you guys one day, maybe at Liberty University if you ever come speak there. I don't know why you didn't plug your podcast in that review, but I hope you check it out.
Could have been the Three Musketeers.
Yes, you could have been. Anyway, thank you guys so much again for watching another episode of Conservative TMZ here on Slightly Offensive, the best worst show on Blaze TV, where you know that if you sign up at blazetv.com/Elijah, you support
or not? Am I getting
cards that render high quality inserts like this confetti of color, which we always say confetti of color because color comes after confetti because we are politically correct, even when it comes to our amazing real-life graphics. Thank you so much to Lauren Chen for coming on again. As always, last time we mentioned it was the election. Anything that you want the audience to know about there to follow you or anything you're doing?
You can find me on YouTube.
Oh, is this
Lauren
just plugs?
Chen,
Okay. No. All right, you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys know where to find these people anyway. I mean, most people follow Lauren Chen, AMIR ODOM. I'm pretty sure my entire channel knows John. I would be very shocked if we have a single person in a live chat that doesn't know John. And then the other person, to be honest, I still don't know what that person's name is. But anyways, there you go. Let's go to chat. All right. We're going to time to go to chat. You need more than just government, culture, and religion are super important. Well, yeah. Well, obviously in a system like ours, which is democratic, I would argue the culture and the state of religion in the country dictates ultimately what you see in the government, which should be pretty self-explanatory, but is obviously true. It's like, if you have left-wing culture, it's going to manifest in left-wing politics within the government because people will vote that into power using the culture in which their mentality is born. And the same is true with, right-wing politics and right-wing culture. So Easy the Legendary says, Vince, you missed my super chat. Did I? When? I've actually been looking at the chat pretty often. I did not see yours, Easy Legendary. I'm sorry about that. But I don't know. You want to send another one or just send a chat again? I will read it, okay? I will read it. Watching John's videos is how I found you, Lo. We love to see it. We love John, don't we, folks? Who's John Boyle? He's a fine man, is what he is. I don't drink coffee or tea. It is just simply the case, okay? Coffee is more base than tea. And anyone who disagrees, I'm looking at you, Orange Horseman. I don't know if you're still in chat, okay? But anyone who disagrees, again, is literally coping. Oh, he said the Yes Man ending on Fallout New Vegas proves Lolbert's wrong. It is so true. It is so true, okay? What happens when the courier sides with Yes Man, especially if you don't if you don't upgrade the Securitrons? Yeah, and the ending slide is like the Securitrons were hard pressed to install order on New Vegas' streets. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. The independent New Vegas ending is a cope. It is such a cope. It's literally just like, oh, well, I didn't like any of the factions, so I'm gonna make my own because I'm the yeah, dude. You're a courier, okay? You're a courier. You haven't had any significant degree of education. What the hell does the courier know? Yeah, courier is very good with guns. He can use them very effectively. What the hell does he know about running a city state? Yeah, you don't know anything. Okay, it's such a cope. Oh, but you know, I don't like the way the NCR or House or the Legion run things. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah, what do you know about running it yourself, buddy? You're not a politician. You haven't read the books. You don't know anything about administration. All you know how to do is use your gun. And in order to run a country, you're going to need a lot more than that, okay? It's such a cope. Imagine thinking in your role play that the courier knows freaking anything about running a country. No, he or she, whoever your courier is, does not, okay? And stop pretending like it was, because if that was the case, then you would be an advisor to Caesar, or you would be a senator in the NCR or something. But you're not. You're a courier. Okay, humble yourself. It's just literally the case. It's just literally the case. Legion is based. No. Okay, I'm a Mr. House nationalist. Okay, all right. We love Mr. House, don't we, folks? It's called We Do a Little Siding with Mr. House. Okay. I think from a role-playing perspective, to be completely honest, it makes the most sense. It's always made the most sense to me. Where does Trump rank among U.S. presidents? I think I'll answer this real quick. I think he's 6th behind Eisenhower, Coolidge, Teddy, Washington, and Lincoln. Somewhere around there. I might put him a few behind that. We love James Polk, okay? Underrated U.S. president. But yeah, I'd say he's like top 10. Towards the back of the 10-ish. It's probably about right, I think. But anyways, back to what I was talking about with New Vegas. Okay. It makes the most sense for the courier to side with Mr. House. It always just felt right to me. It's like, you meet every faction in the game, but to me, I've always felt like when you walk into the Lucky 38, it just feels right. It's like you just feel this sense of like, yeah, this is because keep in mind this. The courier was employed by Mr. House all along. Okay, there's a reason why the quests are called The House Always Wins, because the House always does win. And you are ultimately Mr. House's equalizer, because the NCR has an army, the Legion has an army, but Mr. House has you, and obviously the Securitrons, but you're his only human agent. And he is the person who hired you to transport the platinum chip to begin with. Are we going to forget that? You are the original employee of Mr. House. So obviously, yeah, the courier can betray, but it's just never felt right to me. It's always felt right to me that like you are like that is your ultimate role in New Vegas, is the employee of Mr. House. Everything else is just side quest. So, I side with Mr. House. I'm gonna be honest. That's what I do. No, Adobe Flash Player. I don't want to freaking update. Okay, Legion pill. No, it's just not true. Okay, the virgin Caesar who has like a brain tumor and is gonna like die very soon versus the Chad Mr. House who literally has immortality. Okay, who are you gonna take in this? We have the virgin LARPers over here versus the Chad like autocrat. Okay, it is true. We are. Thoughts on the fake APU merch store? It is what it is. I mean, is it really worth the effort to like take legal action or something? No, but it's fake. Okay, know that it's fake. I think it's pretty obvious that it's fake. So why do so many atheists come out of Catholic school? Because I think Catholic school has become, it's not really about anything to do with Catholicism really anymore. I think Catholic school is more of a place actually where rich secular liberals send their kids because hypocritically they don't like the state of public schools. So that's really what it's turned into. And on the flip side of that, you also have, I think, a lot of teachers who don't teach at Catholic school because they're Catholic and they believe in a Catholic education, but because, again, they're just secular liberals, teachers who tend to indeed to be secular liberals who just teach there because they'd rather teach there than a public school where it's kind of chaotic, whereas, the kids at Catholic school tend to be better behaved. So I would say that's really the reason why. It's like, I think Catholic schools as an institution have become something that are just not Catholic at all, right? And I think this is true of a lot of Protestant schools as well. It's just like there's no really like meaning or significance to the fact that it's a religious school anymore. It's really more just like, oh, it's a private school, that's why it's better, not because you really receive anything of a Catholic education at most Catholic schools. So, Vince, opinion on the Enclave. The Enclave is I don't know what you can say about the Enclave. I mean, I think they have the propensity, they have the potential to be a really based faction if they weren't just simply so psychotic, which they are, So, because that's the thing is, they really have the technological capacity to really rebuild civilization, but instead they're on some like weird eugenics LARP that just holds them back, I think, as a faction, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So, that's the deal. Rank the New Vegas factions. I don't know. Should I do this? Because I don't know if people are really going to like this. Because I'm actually not a big Legion guy, I think the Legion stuff is kind of a LARP because they look Roman and they're cool, but you really look at the way they run their faction, they run their civilization, it's just not good. Like they don't have the ability to build things for themselves. They're essentially glorified raiders, right? That's what they do. And that's the difference between the Legion and Rome. Romans built things for themselves. They built Rome. They had culture, they had art, they had identity. The Legion really does not have that. That's the biggest difference, I think, between the Legion and Rome. The Legion is much more akin to something like the Mongols or like the Alexander the Great Empire, right? They're a bunch of nomadic raiders who ultimately have formed an empire off of their strength, but they don't have the ability to build civilization, And what happens when they kind of run out of new slaves to add or whatever, right? It's it's just not sustainable. They don't have a model for civilization. Even look at something like their plan. Caesar's plan is like, well, I'm going to build my Rome out of New Vegas. Oh yeah, New Vegas, the place where someone else built for you, and then once again they're going to raid, and then suddenly you think they're going to have like this propensity to build culture, to build a real society. No. In fact, I would argue what it's really similar to is kind of, and actually, well, I guess in some ways is kind of like, the German wartime economy. It's like they don't have ability to build out of peace. That's the thing. See, Mr. House obviously has the ability to build an actual civilization, not just to conquer things, but to build civilizations out of what you have conquered. And the same is true of the NCR. The Legion, frankly, are a bunch of glorified raiders. And so I don't, you could argue, well, you need that. But, if the goal is to actually build something, the Legion doesn't have the capacity to do that. Also, when Caesar dies, who's going to take over? The legate? Yeah, we know the story with the legate. Okay, he cares nothing for any of that. He just wants to like conquer like the general that he is. There's no really civilian backbone to the Legion, which it's lacking, I think, really. So. With that being said, my ranking would be House, the NCR, the Legion, and then like Yes Man is just terrible. Okay, I agree. The Legion's better than that. Now that's gonna be a hot take. People are not gonna like that, but that's my take on it. I don't think the Legion has the capacity to build. It only has the capacity to enslave, right? And kind of keep this functioning military running, but I don't think it has the capacity to keep a functioning society running. What about the Minutemen of Fallout 4? I wish you really had more, you could do more with the Minutemen, right? Because I think that the thing about the Minutemen is like, it's kind of a matter of what you do with them. Now, I have installed a lot of mods, right, on the with the Minutemen that really made them into like this formidable military force. Okay, in my game, thanks to mods, like we have vertibirds. Everyone has standardized uniforms in my Minutemen. Okay, everyone has like the same blue uniform, and then there's like a colonel uniform. Dude, my LARPing is epic in that game, and we have drivable vehicles too. Okay, we somehow managed to get cars started in my Minutemen game. But like I think it's really all a matter of what you do with them and how much time you put into them, right? Because I've built, like, we have Spectacle Island and stuff. We have some pretty like impressive settlements. Like my Commonwealth is essentially like its own mini country, okay? But that's I think the Minutemen is really a matter of whatever you make it into. So okay, Isaac super chat. All right, buddy. Okay. All right. Anyways, Fallout 4 moddings makes the Minutemen based, but the Brotherhood of Steel is supreme. Yeah, I sided with the Brotherhood in my game, and then I actually destroyed them out of boredom. It was kind of funny because I just didn't have stuff to do, so I didn't know you could actually do this. You can actually destroy the Brotherhood like post ending. So I blew up the Institute with the Brotherhood, and then out of boredom, I basically I spawned in a bunch of Minutemen, and we like assaulted the Boston airport. And I didn't know this, but you can actually do the post Minutemen ending where you blow up the Pridwin actually after you side with the Brotherhood, which I didn't not know about, which was pretty epic though. So I like the vertibirds. They let me Vietnam LARP. So true. It is so true. Yeah, well, you can get the vertibirds as the Minutemen too, though. So that's pretty fun. I haven't played Fallout since the 3rd. You are missing out. You're missing out because New Vegas, I think, is probably the best game. So, Vince, thoughts on the 1-6 hearing the other day? The Capitol Police, man. Let me say that about the Capitol Police. It is increasingly evident why they basically allowed that to happen on 1-6, because they're just a bunch of unstable, emotional, Jussie Smollett's. Like, that's what happened. So, yeah, we really don't respect the Capitol Police that much, do we? As for the Republicans agreeing to work on infrastructure, I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest. But I think that I don't know how much it really benefits the Republicans to even agree to work on this. It's a known thing that negotiations have stalled. What's the point of even getting an infrastructure bill through right now? In fact, not to be like this small government hawk, but it'll probably just make inflation worse. I think Trump is actually right that it is something that should really be looked at really after the midterms, when Republicans have negotiating power. And, it's not like Democrats really have the votes to pass the infrastructure bill right now anyway. So I do really think it's something that Trump is right. They should probably just wait on. So Mitch McConnell is a closet Democrat. Probably voted for Biden, if we're being honest. Probably did. Republic of Dave. So true. We are ROD nationalists. Okay, we love the Republic of Dave. What's your thoughts on the railroad? Cringe. I don't like the railroad. Okay, I think to be honest, the Brotherhood is okay. This is like people don't like to admit this, but I think the Brotherhood has a pretty good point when it comes to synths, right? If you think about this for a second, why would the Institute build synths without some type of fail-safe, without some type of switch, right? And I know in the game it never plays out, but it's like, you really would have to think that if the Institute has to have these synths for something, okay, especially if they're going to let them all escape like that. And you don't know what they've programmed into the synths. Synths really are not something that should be trusted, I don't think. So, thoughts on the Just Cause series? I've never played it, to be honest. I've seen videos of it, but I've never really played it. Thoughts on Steven Crowder? He's all right. Have I played Doom or Eternal? No, I've not. Vince, we need the Lauren tier list. I don't know. What would the Lauren tier list be? I don't know. What are the Laurens? It's like there's Lauren Chen, Lauren Witzke, Lauren Kim. What other Laurens are there? I guess there's that person. What, Lauren Southern is her name? I know nothing about her, so I can't even tier list her. Lauren Bolbert. Oh, actually, that's true. There are a lot of Laurens in politics. I didn't even notice that. I don't know. We'll do that at some point or something. I don't even know. The stream moderators testified at the 7. Okay, listen, okay? I will once again reiterate. Not only did I not have any role in 714. 714 never happened, okay? And if you believe, and quite frankly, let me say that 714 itself is probably a psyop to distract the fact that the audio on John's video on Monday, okay, far outdoes 714, okay? Because at least, and I'm not saying 714 happened because it didn't, but hypothetically, if 714 were to happen, at least it was live. At least I have that excuse, okay? Whereas the audio on, what day was it that he posted? I think it was 726. Okay, the 726 incident's a lot worse because that was posted. That was posted as a video. So, no, the stream moderators testified, and the ones we do like, the ones that were telling the truth, once again reiterated that 714 never happened. So, VinceDao getting impeached due to 714? No, I'm literally not. I'm literally not, though, because we have no way to remove me. So it's not happened. This is an empire, okay? This is VinceDao nationalism, whatever. But it's what it certainly is not, is a democracy, okay? John's audio sucked, but at least you could hear it. Okay, listen, Sam. My audio sucked, but at least I restarted it, okay? Okay? You see how you can go? You see how you can go both sides here? My audio sucked, but I was live, okay? So we can do this all day, okay? We can really do this all day. All right? Honestly, let's be honest, it's a semantics game at the end of the day, okay? But I would say that I think the 726 incidents objectively worse in scale than the 714 incident, because we were able to cover up the 714 incident. We're not going to, you can't really cover up something that you actually posted to YouTube. So, no, I didn't. No, I said hypothetically. I said hypothetically if it were real. Here's the deal with it. Okay, that's what I said. Paladin Dance is the Patrick Casey of Fallout 4. That's an S tier comment, actually. It's actually pretty true. It's as Carter Shaw is going to do Man on the Streets. All right, we will wait to see that. Vince, American Populist Crusade says thoughts on the term femoid or femoid. I don't know. I don't use it that often. I actually prefer to just say woman. I feel like I do say it every once in a while, but I prefer to just say woman. It's kind of funny because it's like you don't really you don't actually call women like just woman that much on a daily basis. So I prefer to say that. I prefer to just say, oh, look, woman moment or whatever, Femoid is retired, but it was once good. I agree with that. Vince says OJ Simpsoning 714. I'm literally not. Who is someone who has told the truth? Who just only tells the truth? I don't know. But that is me. Okay, that is me. I am truthing 714. I will post it. How could you have a role in something that didn't happen? How could you? Adam Kissinger is actually a woman. That is true. Look at the 714 grifters. So true. I said woman moment that so much that my last few girlfriends cited it when we fought. Come on. Your girl should accept a woman moment. Okay. I think that should be a litmus test. Does your girl accept you messing with her by saying woman? If they don't, I don't think they're the one, to be completely honest. I just got here. What happened? Nothing. I reiterate that nothing happened on 7/14. What happened on 7/14 was we did a stream. It was about like, I don't know, I think it was Tommy Lahren and Caitlyn Jenner at CPAC or something. And that was it. That was all that happened, okay? And the audio was fine. We definitely did not stop it and then restart the stream because there was no audio for like 20 minutes. And that just never happened. It's just a lie. It's just a psyop, and it indeed never happened. Okay. Which is more based, hot dogs or hamburgers? I would have to say hamburgers 100%. All right. But anyway, so we're going to go for like 5 more minutes here. So if you have any last super chats you want to send in, do them now. And we'll end at like 18:15 here. 7/14 is a psyop. It is so true. It is so true. It is a psyop. Okay. Now, by who? I'll leave you to speculate, but it's absolutely a psyop. It's just not the case. This just didn't happen. Okay. You're just wrong. Where'd the comment go? Did a moderator delete his comment? That'd be very funny. What happens if someone recorded 7/14? Okay. Hey, look here, buddy. You can literally just mute me and put static audio over anything. That doesn't prove anything. Okay. It literally proves nothing. So Trump making terrible endorsements. It's the most destructive thing to the party. It's so true. It's absolutely true. Red Eagle is the ultimate judge. No, he's not. Who put a Red Eagle in charge of this? Okay. Red Eagle is probably a 7/16 believer. I mean, 7/14 believer. What DLC would you recommend for Fallout New Vegas? Okay, this is going to be a very hot take. Very hot take. But Honest Hearts is honestly my favorite one. The one in Zion Canyon. Like, of all the DLCs, I actually always find myself to enjoy that one the most. I don't know why. I feel like maybe because it feels the most like its own game, right? There's the kind of the most role-playing in it, so that's why I kind of like it the most. I always enjoy that one the most. I would say the tier list for me goes Honest Hearts, and then obviously what's Lonesome Road, right? That's the one with the Divide. It's a good DLC. It's kind of hard, but it's a good DLC. And then there's the science one. What is it called? Old World Blues. And then the last one in dead last comes to Sierra Madre. That one is so frustrating. Okay. I just can't stand that DLC. I literally, it's just so frustrating. Okay. I know people say, oh, it's such good storytelling. I don't care. It's just so damn frustrating. I can't stand that DLC. Okay. I hate it. Don't even play that one, to be completely honest. Okay. Just watch the story, because I guarantee you it will annoy the crap out of you. And the thing is, you can't even go back. Right? You can't even just leave and exit the way you can with some of the other DLCs. It's like you're literally stuck in the Sierra Madre until you finish that stupid thing. And I hate it. Okay, I hate it. Screw it. We all my homies hate the Sierra Madre DLC. We hate that one. It's so true. Dead Money sucks. It literally sucks. Okay, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Okay, it's terrible. Terrible. I only finish Honest Hearts based. Honest Hearts, it's the best DLC, okay? If you will take this into account. And Lonesome Road is pretty good. I like that one. It's pretty hard, but it's not like ridiculously frustrating the way the Sierra Madre is, right? It's just difficult. But there's actually like a linear progression to it. You're not just like stuck running away from ghosts the whole time. It's just, I hate that. Hate it. Alex Jones. No, he just doesn't. This is just not the case. Have I played GTA 5 before? Yes. Actually, I was thinking of, I think it's live now. Yeah, I set up a members only thing. If you guys want to check that out, I'll probably like announce it in like a video, one of my next videos or something. But we now have memberships available for me on YouTube. I don't know if we're actually going to like use it that often. We have to see how many people actually join it. But I think the thing I set up was pretty epic, because basically what the membership gets you, there's like tiers to it, right? But basically the lowest tier, you get access to like priority commenting, and you get, obviously your badge, but also even the lowest tier, you get access to, we're going to do a monthly Q&A video, kind of like the mailbag. I don't know, but a monthly Q&A video. And then the second tier gets on top of that 2 exclusive videos on whatever topic it is that week. So it might be something that I think is too controversial for the general audience, or just something really like niche, or even something personal that's just kind of like a funny video. So it's like basically 3 exclusive videos a month, and then access to a lot of other stuff. I think I think the upper tier I put in also like, yeah, I think you also get your own propaganda poster, which is pretty epic. So go check it out. All right, I won't like make it like fully operational until we actually have enough members to make it operational. But I think I did post the membership thing as live as last night. So I figure that's easier to do than a website because it's like kind of all in one place. It is more susceptible to, you know, YouTube doing whatever, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Well, check it out. If you want to check it out, go and subscribe. Go and check out a membership, and then once we have a few members, we can actually start like making the membership operational. You know. Lonesome Road is interesting, but I never finished it because it annoyed me. It's called We Do a Little Turning Down the Difficulty Level. I didn't do that. I would never do that, but it could be the move. Take the Elijah pill. Yes. That is the best way to end dead money, to be completely honest, because ultimately, let's be honest, the rage you will feel doing dead money will just literally want to make you destroy the world. So I think Father Elijah actually is in a way is kind of the move. So do you prefer to be messaged on Telegram or Instagram? If you really want to reach me, probably do Telegram, because Instagram is very, very messy. Are you going to watch the debates for the special election in Cali? I'm guessing you're talking about the recall. I didn't even know they were doing debates for that. Let me see. I'm guessing you're just referring to the recall election debates. I don't know. Is that worth? Okay, it's not even worth it then. Because if there's no Newsom, there's no Jenner, there's no Elder. I mean, what is there? There's Kevin Faulconer. I mean, I like that guy, but like, it's just kind of pointless, to be honest. I don't know. This is a crappy debate if you don't have the three most prominent candidates. So Signal is more secure than Telegram. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it's true. But Signal is also more promoted by more mainstream people, which leads me to believe that that's actually a psyop, and Telegram is probably the one that's more secure. But I don't know. How many mods do you have? I don't know. So many people well, make this person a mod, make that person a mod. Next thing you know, half the chat is like moderators, dude. Stupid. It's stupid. Yeah. Okay, definitely skip dead money. I would agree. Okay. What is your favorite brass instrument? It's definitely the trumpet. As a matter of fact, I have a trumpet up here because I was in middle school band, and so I had my own trumpet. I do not remember how to play it, by the way. I literally do not. But I do have a trumpet up there. I don't know. Should we bust out the trumpet sometimes that I literally don't remember how to play? Is that going to be the move? Do we need a? Okay, this is true. This is true. We are going to have a mod moratorium. Favorite woodwind? I don't know. The clarinet, I guess. I mean, woodwinds are kind of cringe, to be honest. It's like you have. I mean, I wouldn't say they're cringe. I just think they're more like feminine instruments. I don't know. Let me just say that in band class, okay. Let me just say this: the guys who played the clarinet always had a certain physiognomy about them. So, I don't know. Whereas the brass players, right? The brass players tended to be more of the Chads. I was only in band for like 1 year, but that was something I observed. Okay. And the drums. Yeah, the drum guys are cool. The percussion supremacy. Yeah, no, the drum guys are cool. It's just like the guys who played the flute and the clarinet, there's just I don't know, there's just always something about them that you could just tell, oh, he's a woodwinds guy. Never did band of a dude. You did oh gosh, I can't even talk right now. JROTC, not even ROTC. JROTC. Those guys were interesting. We need a piano ethno stage. No, I disagree with that. Now the piano of like the solo instruments is probably the best one, but I disagree with that. I don't think so. All right. We already went overtime, but I'm having fun, so we'll go for a few more minutes. Stop us. What other freaking woodwinds are there? I can't even think of them. What is there besides those? I don't even know. You act like I'm some band enthusiast. No, I know the woodwinds for the clarinets and the flutes. That's what I know. Okay. Would I support red states seceding? I think it would be. I think it would honestly be a good thing for the country, because at least we would just like. It's basically the best way to avoid just straight up civil conflict is to just peacefully separate. But like, because we are that divided as a country where it's kind of headed toward that track, to be honest. But it's not a realistic thing. It's just not going to happen anyway. So it's kind of a LARP, to be honest. Recorders, okay, that is true. Recorders are based. We love the recorder, folks. Okay, we love just how childish and just obnoxious and annoying it is, and how little skill it takes to play it. No, we do. That is true. We love the recorders. Okay, the recorders are epic. It's just the recorders emulate Zoomer energy. Okay, just I used to have a really nice recorder somewhere too. I don't know where it is. It was like this pearly white recorder that we had from elementary school. I like that thing. I like playing that thing. I was a sick recorder player, by the way, because we used to do that for elementary school band class or whatever, and we all had these recorders, dude. It was I was sick at it. I actually practiced it. Let me tell you something. I practiced my elementary school recorder music more than I did my middle school band music. Okay. I was a recorder enthusiast back in the day. Recorders lead the battle cry. It is so true. It is so true. I played. Let's go. We love to see it. We love to see it. The didgeridoo. We do. We love the didgeridoo. That's probably the best John Doyle video. The didgeridoo one. I love that video. John, he does give off major recorder energy. It's true. It's true. And I say that in a good way. All right. I'm getting kind of hungry, so we'll wrap it up soon. But pianos are the most refined instrument. Yeah, but who wants to be refined? What are you, an elitist, buddy? What are you, an elitist? No, we emulate chaotic male energy. Okay, we play the trumpet. Okay, which really does, like I said, emulate like loud, chaotic male energy, which is kind of epic. It's kind of epic, to be honest. So, would seceding from the make the U.S. weaker than China and give them the global stage? I mean, it would. Yes. Do I really care that much? No, but it would. And I'm not like a secessionist, you know. I think ideally, if done correctly, it could be something that is kind of based, but you know, it's just not going to happen. It's a LARP, you know. So I don't believe in LARPing. Okay, we don't believe in LARPing. We believe in like real things, you know. So tuba gives off powerful and bombastic energy. It is true. It is true. I would say the trombone does that too. You know, I was a trumpet player though, because I was kind of like I guess I was like the loud, hype, like obnoxious one, right? But all the brass instruments, they're all epic, to be honest, except the French horn. The French horn is a little bit just like, why does that need to exist? But besides that, we love the brass instruments. Okay. Do I think the Vietnamese are more based than Cubans in America? Well, it's interesting because Cubans are more Catholic on average. That part is true than the Vietnamese, because you know the Vietnamese, there are a lot of Vietnamese Catholics, but a lot of them are like Buddhist and like stuff like that. So on that front, no. But then I think in other ways, yes, because I feel, you know, I think Vietnamese tend to, and maybe because it's a distance thing, Vietnamese tend to embrace American identity a little bit more than the Cubans do, you know, because usually when you see a South Vietnamese kind of protest or whatever, you will see a lot, I think you'll see a lot more American flags at it than you would something like a lot of these Cuban protests. So that's interesting. I don't know. I obviously I have a bias because I'd obviously shill a little bit more for my own like culture in that regard. But I don't know. I mean, I think our food tastes a lot better. That's true too. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think we're actually more Republican voting too, a little bit more than the Cubans. At least historically, we have been. And also think about this. Think about this. Okay, the places we congregated, for example, Orange County, California, or like the nice part of Houston, usually a Vietnamese ethnic enclave is a lot. Let me just say this. This is just true. Okay, I'm just stating facts here. Tend to be a lot safer when it comes to crime, and tend to be a lot cleaner too than the Cuban ethnic enclaves. And that's not a knock on the Cubans. We love the Cubans, but I think even the Cubans would acknowledge that that's true. So I don't know. But I think I'd say the Vietnamese are a little bit better in that regard. But I think it's up to a lot of interpretation. So Vietnamese Republicans tend to be less globalist than Cuban Republicans. That's true. It's true. Cubans locally tend to vote for a lot of like rhino candidates, whereas you look at like Garden Grove and these places, like, because I know actually the city councilman from Garden Grove, I think it's Garden Grove at least, or it might be Westminster in Orange County, Vietnamese ethnic enclave, and he's like based, like he's a super like pro-Trump Republican, you know. And also the way the Vietnamese, especially the Vietnamese men, view Trump is like just so epic. Like the way they just like him so much. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think I'd have to take the Vietnamese in this contest. That's up for you to decide, because I feel like I can't be objective because I do have like this. I do know the Vietnamese more than the Cubans, obviously, but I don't know. I think I'd have to say the Vietnamese are kind of cooler in that regard, but I don't know. You said you message the APU account. Okay, don't message the APU account. You're probably not going to get a response. Fill out the form on our website, and then we'll take a look in there. That's usually how we respond most of the time. I don't know. You know what? But let's do that before we end the stream in like 5 minutes. Take your vote right now. Who's more based, the Vietnamese Republicans or the Cuban Republicans? Okay, I'm kind of interested how the people stand on this one. So let's take a look. Okay, I'm very curious how this is going to turn out. Who runs the APU account on YouTube? Mostly me. Vietnamese. We got a lot of votes for the Vietnamese. It seems to be unanimous. But I should have asked before, because I kind of made a case for the Vietnamese being more epic. So not sure I know. Okay, we have half a vote for the Cubans. The South Florida Republicans are all cringe. Oh, they gave us VinceDao. That is true. That is true. They did. Although I don't know. I wasn't really, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't really raised in a super like culturally oriental household. I mean, I guess there's my grandma who's like, you know, like that. But I was raised a lot more westernized. If anything, I was raised because of the Valley. I was raised in a more like Hispanic culture than a Vietnamese one. Which is why I say I'm the Hispanic person expert, because I literally raised like around more Hispanics than like anything else. But I would say overall, I probably subscribe the most to like more predominantly white Western culture than I do my own. It's called, we do a little bit of assimilation. It's true. But like, even like as a kid, I don't know. Like one day I just decided I only wanted to speak English, and then that's how it went. And so I literally forgot how to speak Vietnamese, because as a kid, like it's funny because I grew up speaking mostly Vietnamese. And then when I got to school and everyone spoke English, I had an inclination to assimilate. It was kind of funny. And so I was like only speak English from there on out. It's pretty epic. Assimilation is based. It is. It's so true. It's so true. English is better than literally any other language. No, it's true. Not all. The thing is too. Okay, here's the unseen part of the language barrier. You know, obviously it's like, I don't know. I think now like 13% of America only speaks Spanish. And obviously you have other languages too. It's not just a matter of communication. Obviously, that's the biggest thing. But also, there's some interesting study into this too. There's a name for the science, which I forgot, but it's very interesting, which is that you actually perceive the world differently based on the language that you speak. And I don't think people really take this into account enough. It's not just a matter of like, oh, well, you can't communicate directly. Based on how your language, and this is something you just have to visualize. It's very hard to describe, but you actually formulate a different view of the world, and you see the world in a different way, and ultimately, as a result, you will have different beliefs based on your language, and I would argue based on your first language, right? Because you can learn the English language, but if you predominantly still kind of think in Spanish or Vietnamese or whatever language it is, you're going to perceive the world in that kind of, I don't know, metaphysical realm. And as a result of that, you're not going to, you literally, I don't think, can ever be assimilated into the same mindset as an English speaker if you're not someone who is raised in English, because you have a different outlook on the world as a result of it. It's a very interesting, I wish I knew what the science is called, because it's a very interesting science that you guys should look into, but it's kind of like the science of how language actually changes the way you see the world, which makes sense when you think about it, because you look at like the linguistic structures and the rules of a certain language that ultimately is going to because that's how you perceive the world. You see things around you, perceive the things around you in whatever language you know. So if your language is, I don't know, Spanish, you perceive the world around you in Spanish, right? And that's going to create a different world perspective than someone who perceives the world in English. So that's something that's very interesting. And I think it's actually a very interesting argument we should be making when it comes to things like immigration and assimilation with language and that stuff. It's not even just a matter of communication. It's also a matter of like culture, of how you actually the people in your society are actually going to view the world. Very interesting thing to talk about. No one thinks about this, but it's true. It's very big brain, but it's true. But anyways, with that being said, guys, it's 8:30, so we're actually going to wrap up the stream here. So I will see you guys. Last question. Thoughts on how to convert a liberal white woman. Here's the thing. Like I said, I personally, honestly, did not grow up around enough liberal white women to really tell you that. Like I said, my school was like 80% Hispanic, something like that. Like the liberal white women that you kind of see in like the culture, I personally grew up around like a very small amount of them. I don't know if I know them well enough to give you an answer to that. I think you have to ask someone who really understands the liberal white woman well enough to tell you how to respond to that. I honestly don't. And I'm being serious when I say that. So anyways, guys, with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream. I would do the Cuba video, but I think John's doing one tomorrow, so we might as well figure out something else. Maybe we'll do a stream tomorrow. I don't know. I'll let you know. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. Have a good night, and peace out. All right.